And he also then responded as it's a statement. And that's why I chose that name, is because I wanted people using it in our community as a statement. No white guilt. No white guilt is the most revolutionary thing you can say in any Western country today. It is, without question, the most revolutionary thing you can say. It shatters anti-white narrative. It shatters what they need to be able to victimize us, which is that we willingly lower our guard and allow ourselves to be victimized. So you got to say no white guilt. And the fact that he ended up saying that, awesome. Because there are more than one. I've been on both the radio and the JF. Mudfish says, I'll load a card with a substantial amount to help keep you working. My word, because you're the best voice we have. I really thank you for that. You know what? I'm not the best anything. I'm just the guy who tries with all his heart. One of these days I'm going to tell the story, and it's going to have to be on a video. I won't be able to do it on a live stream because it makes me too emotional, and then I can't talk. One of these days I'm going to tell you the story of one of my brothers and the heart that at that time that little boy had. That's it. That's all we're going to say right now. Heart is what matters. Not skill, not talent, not looks, nothing, none of that. Heart is what matters. Tenacity, desire, passion. You can all have that. You can all access that. That is what matters. Get up in the morning, and when your feet hit the floor, I want the anti-whites to tremble in their boots. That is how you make your life matter. The anti-whites know better than anybody what's going to harm and undermine what they are doing. Is that not the case? So if they know better than anyone else on planet Earth what is going to undermine what they're doing, and these are not the pink-haired anti-whites at YouTube, at this platform, or that platform. These are the governments. If they're saying, no, don't let these people hear that lexicon, those dialectics, they're telling you that it works. They're telling you that they can tell it's going to undermine what they are poisoning you with. They're saying that's the antidote. Don't let it into our country. HC Entertainment, £5 investment. Thank you very much for that, HC. How can you not love this guy? 100% dedicated to the cause. Amen in return. Thank you very much for that kind investment. But to us, they will throw the laurel of victory around our necks. Our names will be the ones that they remember. Our lives. You can be remembered through your lineage. You can be that great-great-grandfather who fought for white well-being, grandfather thus and such, and your image goes up on the wall in their home. Now that is something that gives me chills. That's something that I would feel absolute honor to be able to be that face on the wall in that family, generations from now. He did all that he could. That's how I would be. How do you want to be, if at all? Anger is a virtue when it protects the innocent.
never hate my race, but until recently I didn't know history class was jacked completely. Found my new family with the team going free. My old family doesn't understand me, cause I am so pro-white. No coke, no Sprite, I am rolling with the public, gonna be more white. I saw them twist history right before my very eyes. Insurrection Day, it's in the book and it's all lies. But now I am alive and well to tell it. But will generations down the line be able to sell it? I've always been a thinker on the search for both sides, but they label me an outcast and they cannot tell me why. Guess I'm just a black sheep, white boy who doesn't hesitate to make a lot of fucking noise. I'm the black sheep, white boy, and I wouldn't change a thing if I ever had the choice. Cause the red's the color I bleed. Yes, we all do bleed red. I have to protect my family. So I love my people. Why does affirmative action make them not hire me? Even in the countries where I'm the minority. Is my race just that awesome and no other could compete? Is that what the anti-whites are trying to tell me? Why am I always seen as such a threat? To the point they want to strip me down till there's nothing left. Old friends from high school, man, I haven't kept one, but I got a new crew and it's where I belong. Cause if you ain't going free, you ain't rolling with me. And there are even anti-whites in my own family. But I am the one who's comfortable with myself. I try to save them from the hate so wildly raising hell. Cause I'm the black sheep, white boy who doesn't hesitate to make a lot of fucking noise. I'm the black sheep, white boy, and I wouldn't change a thing if I ever had the choice. Cause the red's the color I bleed. Yes, we all do bleed red. I have to protect my family. So I heard that Scotland is too white, is Nigeria too black? Don't get your panties in a bunch, cause I have the right to ask. See, I'm the black sheep, cause I call it hypocrisy. And the media will give you emotions, but they will not give you honesty. Yeah, you have your feelings, but I have the crime rate. And I'ma shoot to kill if there's a danger my way. So I do not blame the cops, just the ones who are cowards, who hesitate to pull the trigger unless it is one of ours. Cause he's a black sheep, white boy who doesn't hesitate to make a lot of fucking noise. I'm the black sheep, white boy, and I wouldn't change a thing if I ever had the choice. Cause the red's the color I bleed. Yes, we all do bleed red. I have to protect my family. So I love my people to death.
And we are rolling in, going free. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know if you can hear me okay. Right before we decided to get together, normally we get together on Tuesdays, even though it's not always a planned thing to do that. But right before, after I'm setting things up and running around, trying to get things done, I discover that there is a brand new Oliver Anthony song that's been released. And so I figured we'll have a look. We'll look at it together, brand new, and we'll see what kind of piece this is. It'll be a live reaction. So those who are watching, which I'm sure will be none, who are here because they are told to come here, invited to come here, I guess I should say, by YouTube, invited to come here for a reaction, well, then they'll get to see it. I'm sure that'll be none. Based on another experiment conducted yesterday with the video I made about Oliver Anthony, which I am going to put to you all and get your views of a little bit later while we're together. I think we're going to take a look at Buddy Brown video. We're going to talk as it relates to the Maui fires. We'll talk about the Maui fires and how should you be handling this conversation, if at all. And you'll see how you should have conversations, converse with folks about Maui fires, and how you shouldn't, because I'm seeing a lot of people doing it the very wrong way. At least wrong insofar as wanting to make a difference in the world for white well-being, wanting to reclaim our destiny. But do we have plastic conservatives just sprouting everywhere? Are there any real conservatives left in the world? That's the question I guess I have. DeSantis being replaced by Ramaswamy. The system, of course, wants this non-white guy to be able to run against Trump instead, because that will make it, I'm sure they believe, easier to slander him as a racist and bigot and etc. for any slanders that he uses on Ramaswamy. So we'll take just a very brief look at that. And then I think that'll be about it. We'll see. Why don't we go ahead and pull this video up on the screen and have a listen to Oliver Anthony. And if you're one of the people who from the white sympathetic sphere and you're coming unglued over just the mention of his name or something, I don't know, get over it or stop watching the stream, because that's what we're going to do right now. I mean, this is, he is big news, and he will continue to be big news for the foreseeable future. He will continue to persuade our brothers and sisters for good or ill. And right now, it's for a lot of ill if he's going to continue to recite anti-whiteisms, meme pathogens, these anti-American, anti-Christian, anti-everything that made America what it is. So let's take a look at this song. We'll watch it together. You can give your opinions as we listen to the song. Hopefully you haven't heard it yet. And today, for the first time, I have Rumble up and running while we are streaming, so I can see JS over there on Rumble. And JS says, "Screw tube sucks." I think that's what it says. It's kind of blurry, but thank you. Yes, they sure do. It's hardcore. I'm going to tell you all some numbers I wrote down here from other content creators under 24 hours on the same day, yesterday, and what their numbers are. And one of them even released his video at the exact same moment that I released mine. And he only had 442 subs. You'll be not surprised, I guess, at the results there. But some others, one that was an hour before mine released, and then an hour and a half before mine, and then another content creator, actually it's a duo, guy and his wife or girlfriend or whatever, and they were about 2 hours before mine. And we'll take a look at the numbers there because they're very telling. And I hope it puts to bed forevermore anybody, or it should, anybody of any honesty, intellectual honesty, of saying of this argument that, oh, there isn't censorship, it's these other things here, it's those other things that are the cause of this. So here we go. We have The Mournful Face, and this song is Oliver Anthony. He just released this, and he already has 40,000 views. In fact, let's refresh and let's see. If it won't. He just released this. So you want to know if this and his effect on our people is worth reviewing. It's under 1 hour, 71,000 views. Okay, so here he is in this lugubrious face that he's making out there in the woods. The song is called I Want to Go Home. And of course, I think we all can conclude he's probably talking about dying and going to heaven. And so let's go ahead and have a listen. Let me know, too, if you're having a hard time hearing him. Great to see everybody here.
Well, if it weren't for my old dogs and the good Lord, they'd have me strung up in the psych ward. 'Cause every day living in this new world is one too many days to me.
Okay, so yeah, it's like a suicide ballad. And I noticed that the southern accent has returned. So not present when he's being interviewed, though.
Son, we're on the brink of the next world war, and I don't think nobody's praying no more, and I ain't saying I know it for sure. I'm just down on my knees, begging the Lord to take me home. I wanna go home.
So this is the exact kind of thing. I mean, once again, the song is, he is like the perfection of this genre of or this vein of music. This everything is lost. This is the funeral march. I just want to perish mindset, sink into sadness and do nothing. He does it beautifully. And some people like his voice. Some people hate his voice. Some people like his instrument and the sound and the chords, and others don't like it at all. But you still have to come to grips with the fact that he's speaking to a great many of our brothers and sisters. And if he continues to say the things that he was saying, as I pointed out in my video yesterday that I released yesterday, it's going to be very deleterious. And we'll take a look at some of those things briefly during this roll-in gathering.
I don't know which road to go. It's been so long. I just know I didn't used to wake up feeling this way, cussing myself every damn day. There's always some kind of bill to pay. People just doing what the rich man say. I wanna go home.
And who is the rich man in the anti-white narrative where we live? If you don't specify that that rich man is anti-white, for example, then it's always a white man. This is reminding me of that song. It wasn't in the same genre of music. Many years ago, perhaps somebody can tell me the title, where they say, or the name of the group or band or singer, where the wording was, "I'm a loser, baby, so why don't you kill me?" Anybody listening to that was absolutely a loser. Why would you want that being a recurring song in your head? And for everybody out there who says that, because I had somebody try to say, "Oh, there's no voice in your head. People just don't have a voice." And do you ever find a song? Have you ever heard of an earworm? Do you ever hear this music playing in your head? Do you ever hear the lyrics? Of course. So what we say here about power by way of the subconscious mind is infinitely true. And in fact, it has affected Oliver Anthony to such a degree that he villainy signaled, and we want the best for him. We want him to come around and be white positive. We want to be able to influence him in a way that's beneficial to him and beneficial to his audience, beneficial to our country, United States, and beneficial to the whole West. That's what we want. We don't need another sad sack, let's kill ourselves, everything is lost anyway, kind of tenor and tone and lyric, etc.
4 generations farming the ground. Grandson sells it to a man out of town. And 2 weeks later, the trees go down. Only got concrete growing around. I wanna go home. I wanna go home. I don't know which road to go. It's been so long. I just know I didn't used to wake up feeling this way, cussing myself every damn day. People have really gone and lost their way. They all just do what the TV say. I wanna go home.
They just do what the television says. Well, that's anti-white. And the television has told him that diversity is our greatest strength. And that's what he repeated, so that the television told all of those listeners that diversity is our strength, that's the origin and strength of the country, and that the country is the melting pot of the world, which kind of sounds a lot like the bedpan of the world. Maybe I'll go ahead and tell you all over the course of this gathering exactly where that garbage came from, because it has nothing to do with our founding fathers. There's no melting pot here.
it weren't for my old dogs and the good Lord, they'd have me strung up in the psych ward.
Oh, that's it. Oh, he surprised me there. There's some. Okay. For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? And how does that apply to you? How does it apply to you? It doesn't. Our country, he's accurately pointing out that our country is going down the toilet. United States, I should say countries, Canada, Australia, all of Europe going down the toilet. All of it's going down the toilet. I will give up my soul for the power to reclaim the destiny of the West. How does that sound? I will surrender my soul to whatever supernatural being wants it, if I can have the power to reclaim the destiny of the West. And that is for the good of everybody who lives in the West and the entire globe. Because descending into the darkness that predates the rise of the sun in the western sky is brutality beyond imagination. All right. So there's the dog that saved his life, I guess, or the dogs in general. And I don't know. He didn't point the camera at the sky. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? This is another surrender song, a surrender siren. And if you are a fan of Oliver Anthony, then we want you to hear this message, because we want you to bring it to Oliver Anthony, that we can recapture our destiny. We can do this for the good of all peoples who live in the West. We need to identify where everything in the West, by what route, by what fissure in the wall, everything in the West is being destroyed. And that fissure, that breach in the wall, is the attack on white people on the basis of our birth. We need to be able to point out that attack and say that it is immoral and keep our eye on that ball. Because if you nullify the anti-white moral imperative of we have got to do fill in the blank, everything that they've done because white people are awful. If you nullify that, it's game over for the anti-whites. It's a proven fact. We do it here. Our entire community does it here in their lives. They can tell you we have countless testimonials. If you're speaking to Oliver Anthony, or if you're listening, you need to speak with me. You need to come to this community and be clued into what's actually happening in the world, because it sounds, according to your interview that you did with Fox News and to some other statements you're making, that you are completely immersed in the anti-white narrative, that you have no idea what is actually going on in the West and in this country and why you're so miserable. And my friend, this is what you're going to end up doing. You're going to end up enabling that misery to continue. You're going to end up preventing people from resisting what's being done to us. If you continue to make music that undermines our spirit to power, our will to retake our destiny. You can't, in this song, you're saying that your dogs and God saved you from being in the psych ward, and the opposition. So it's not your own fire. It's not your own being. It's not you taking charge of yourself and taking ownership. It's out there. It's with a pet. And then you're saying the opposition is the rich men, rich people, rich guys out there. So now it's not even females. It's not even like this gynocentric and this gynocentrism that has been forced. And that means this centering females and their wants and obeying them and bowing down to them, which is a part of anti-whiteism that we live under, that has played no part. It's just the rich men. And in the anti-white narrative, all the rich men are white. They all are white. There aren't any rich non-white people that are responsible for any of this. The reality of the world is that there are rich and poor anti-whites of all races, and they all are the problem. They all wage war on the norms and mores that you're crying about in your music that have been wiped away. They are the ones who perpetuate these global warfare and these catastrophes that they inflict on civilizations around the world. We don't control our destiny. It is these anti-whites of all races and religions that control the destiny of the West. They're responsible for it. And then so what does he say? So it's the rich men and it's the development. The concrete, I think, is what he said, was the only thing growing. So it's the rich white men, de facto, and their development. There's a lot of development that's good as well. We would like that development to be more in tune with nature than it is today. And if we were in charge of our destiny, it would be. But there's a lot of good that comes from development too, like hospitals. Everybody who has any sense wants to live relatively close to one. And then as a consequence, he wants to die. I can see people, and Oliver, I know you don't want this. I don't know, I guess Christopher is your real first name, but Oliver is your stage name. You probably don't want somebody playing your song in the background and then blowing their head off because they're powerless. That's what they're left thinking at the end of your song. Keep that in mind. And if you're one of his audience members, you know this is true. If you're one of his fans, you know this is true. I, more than you, want Oliver Anthony to be mega known across the world. I want him singing music that will empower the struggle against anti-whiteism across the West, not just in the United States. He's talking about people around the world. So let's empower the resistance against anti-whiteism. Let's call it out for what it is. And let's stop with these plastic anti-white platitudes that you learn as you go. This is where Oliver, I mean, folks, nobody in this community better be saying, well, this is some giant psyop. You don't need a giant psyop. You don't need some shadowy figures coming in from the back saying, oh, we're going to prop him up. This is a consequence. Those views are a consequence of growing up in the West today. So is the West anti-white? The average person who grows up in the West ends up saying that the foundation of America is the exact opposite of what it was. I mean, it would be risible if it weren't so deadly serious. I guess, and to that point, I'll see what y'all are saying and we'll move along. I'm not gonna harp on one thing long enough, but listen, Oliver, if you're listening, I will talk with you at any time. I will drive down. I live in Northern Virginia. I will drive down to Farmville. I will talk to you on the phone. I will talk to you in person. I will talk to you with a love of one white man to another, one Southerner to another, one American to another. And I will help you understand what's going on in the world. I want you to be a big success because you have a gift. Whether this person or that person or whatever likes or doesn't like this or that part of what you're doing or what your gift is, you're able to touch a great many people. And I want you to use that gift for good. I want you to use that gift to push back against anti-whiteism. That's what I want for you. You can get rich off doing it. You can become a folk legend off doing that. But I'm going to tell you what, Oliver, if you continue down this path of villainy signaling the anti-white precepts that the country is founded to be a bedpan, a melted bedpan of planet Earth, and that diversity is our strength. If you continue to parrot that kind of stuff, you're just going to disappear. You're not going to be representing anybody. You know why? Because there are a lot of other anti-whites out there who are willing to go even further than you are at least stating so far, and they're going to have non-white blood in them, or they're going to be totally non-white. And this system is going to like them a hell of a lot more than you. So you'll end up talking to fewer and fewer and fewer people. You don't want to become another one of these plastic country music stars. You don't want to become that. And you're not going to remain real and relevant just because you're poor. You've got to represent a people. You say that in the video, and I pointed it out in your interview, that this isn't for any specific people. You know what you should have said, Oliver? And then I'll actually speak to, why don't I go ahead and speak to the melting pot? Where'd that come from? The foundation of America? Nah, buddy. Nah. This is what you should have said. You want to be real and relevant, Oliver? I want you to be real and relevant. You know what you should have done? You should have maybe, when you had this interview, when we talked to Fox News or talk to anybody, put yourself on a baseball cap, sit back, throw one foot up on the table and say, this is who I am. This is for me. What I do is for me. It's for where I come from. It's for my people. And if you don't like it, you can piss off and you will be a legend. You tell, why is Donald Trump loved? Because he tells this system to piss off. You tell this system to go straight to hell, that this is who you are and where you come from and the struggles you face. And everybody else is allowed to have an artist and music and etc. to authentically represent where they come from, who they are, their people. So you want to live forever? You do that. You want to be another kitschy, plastic, superficial country nothing? Well, then you continue down this road of parroting anti-whiteism and its precepts, and you'll be immediately forgotten. I mean, for God's sakes, when I was watching that interview, it almost felt like you came out of Disney. Where did the melting pot come from? Oliver, it did not come from the founding of the country. That's not where we got our strength. In fact, the founding fathers explicitly stated what they intended for this country. And you probably never read it. They talked about it as Supreme Court decisions. They talked about it in the very first Congress, who this country was for, what it was all about. And you know what's missing? In the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, you know what's missing? Is any language that the country was for the world, that the country was just this giant corporation that didn't have an identity and could be any people at any time, just this protean mass of consumers and producers. It doesn't say, that's conspicuous that it doesn't say that anywhere, Oliver. It's conspicuous, isn't it? Because if that's what they wanted, they had a lot of time. They could do that. In the years after we had gained our independence, they had a lot of time. They could have gone ahead and just written that all out. Hey, this is not for the white, our descendants or anything, but even though they said that, this is not for our descendants, for them to inherit and to keep. No, it's for the Orient. It's for the Middle East. It's for, but they didn't do that. So where does the melting pot idea come from, Oliver? I hope you're listening. It came from a play that was, do you know when we declared our independence? I'm sure you do. Many years later, 1908, I think it was, 1908, a play by an anti-white POS by the name of Israel Zangwill. And I'll tell you how he's anti-white. And by the way, that's all that matters about him. And I'll make that clear again as I move through what this is and was. Israel Zangwill was a playwright in the UK. And he wrote this play about America being this place where all of the races melted and all of the cultures melted, and they weren't anything of their origin. They were just this continuous melting mass. My culture, my people, your culture, your people, a melting mass of goo. Meanwhile, this anti-white, he wasn't white. And as I recall, I mean, maybe if you look at him, I can't remember how non-white he looks, but he wasn't white. And I think it was apparent. In fact, he was Jewish. And he was a close friend and associate of Theodore Herzl, the creator, the founder of Zionism, which of course was this movement to create a homeland to preserve the identity of Jewish people. And that's a wonderful thing. They want to preserve their identity. Good for them. I want to preserve mine too. I don't want my white Western to be redundant, American to be redundant, Southern to be redundant identity melted down in the bedpan of the world. That's not what I want. I'm more like Israel Zangwill. I want to preserve my people, and he wanted to preserve his. So we're both noble. We're both virtuous. Me and Zangwill. We're both noble and virtuous. But guess what? Not only, I'm sure you saw the hypocrisy there, Zangwill, a Zionist, by the way, himself, he was also a Zionist, as well as a compatriot and close associate of Theodore Herzl, the founder of Zionism, and creating a play in the UK that played in the United States in the 1900s, Oliver, that said, oh, America is not a place for the people who created it, all the way from that beginning all the way up to the early 1900s. No, it's a place for everybody to be melted. All of the races and cultures just to melt into something that's unrecognizable, something that's not what it was before, something that didn't preserve what it was before. So I'm sure you see the hypocrisy there as he works to find a homeland to preserve his people. But it gets even worse. I bet y'all didn't know this, Oliver and clan, that Zangwill didn't feel that Herzl was going far enough with Palestine. Zangwill thought, boy, Palestine is not a very big area. And he understood the arguments about why to make it Palestine, so it would have this religious connection and be able to manipulate religious people. You need to look into the writings of Herzl and Zangwill and so many of the others, as I did a long time ago, before I knew it was useless to do that. But I've decided I'll give you a little bit of education tonight. So Herzl wanted to use Palestine because of the religious connection and the power and the connotation of religion to manipulate religious people. Manipulate religious Jews, manipulate, and maybe further, other people. For good, I'm sure, for good. But I'm just talking about what Theodore Herzl said, or at least my interpretation of what he said. Check it out for yourself. But Zangwill, Israel Zangwill, the creator of melting pot, the melting pot idea, the toilet, the bedpan, the witch's cauldron idea for America. And by the way, by connection, the rest of the white Western world, as we see playing out around us in the ideology of anti-whiteism, he felt that they weren't going far enough. So he joined something called the Jewish Territorial Movement, I think is what it was called. And the Jewish Territorial Movement was much more ambitious. They didn't want little Palestine. They wanted Uganda. I don't know how many times bigger, 20 times bigger than Palestine. It wasn't, of course, a country. I don't know. It was under the control of the British, and they wanted that turned over to international Jewry. So all of Uganda could be a place where they could move and preserve their identity. Well, that's a noble thing to do. And on that level, I can salute Zangwill. But on another level, he wanted a bedpan for me and my people. And that makes him anti-white. His Jewishness, for everyone out there who is diseased with this J-spurging that you have to get away from. Because when you J-spurg, you condemn innocent Jews as well as anti-white Jews. And that's not going to happen here. That's immoral. And there are many of other reasons why it's wrong and counterproductive. And the evidence that it doesn't go anywhere is generations with us. So you don't need more, I hope, unless you're a really dumb SOB. His Jewishness doesn't matter, because his Jewishness and what they do outside of an intersection with us, for good or ill, is all that matters. That intersection. Think about for a moment if we were talking here about some Vietnamese, specific Vietnamese tribe in Vietnam. I don't care what their gods are, generally speaking, on a daily basis. I don't care. I don't care what words they have for me and white people in general. I don't care how they see the world. I'm not really that interested. It doesn't bother me. I don't care to know. But the moment they become anti-white, I have a problem with them. That's where I stop it. That's where I say you don't go another step further. Your anti-whiteism is what matters to me, because now you have come into my world. What they do in their past, who their thinkers are, what their ambitions are, I couldn't give a shit. And that's how you have to treat other groups of people. You cannot get into their histories to condemn them in toto, because then you are in their stories. Now, that's an admonition from yours truly when it comes to whether or not to condemn whole peoples. If you decide you want to make a study of a Vietnamese tribe and their gods and their leaders and their history, then by all means, you're not going in there to condemn them as the evil incarnate on planet Earth. The evil incarnate on planet Earth are anti-whites. Our story. Does it make sense yet? Does it make sense? I'll liken it one last time to the Mongol hordes coming across the steppes and the plains and lapping up on the shores of Eastern Europe, threatening to destroy everything in the cradle of our civilization. Not a single white person that I've ever read about at that time went out into the world and said, what's the story of the Mongols? What are their gods? What do they desire for the world? What names do they give us? Look at how they've harmed the Arabs. Look at how they've harmed the Indians. Look at how they've harmed other groups of Asians. And then made their entire resistance to the Mongolian warriors a study and this sitting in their story, a centering them for that resistance. Not one. That never happened. They said our people in Europe gave names in our story to what and who they were and what and who they came from. And that's how we resisted them. Get some balls. Stop being led around by the nose by anti-whites, because it serves anti-whites very well to have you living in somebody else's story and condemning people that immediately elicits sympathy from scores of millions of our brothers and sisters for them. Let me see what y'all are saying about this song, this suicide song. Want to go home. What are you all thinking about it? The censorship on YouTube, you're going to have to tell people that we're live. You're going to have to, you're also going to have to look at my description under this video and find other means by which to follow yours truly and to get alerts from me. You could use Telegram, you could use Twitter, you could use Gab, whatever it is. I send out alerts everywhere, but you can't use YouTube because the censorship here on yours truly is 99 point something %. We demonstrated it with a video, and I got more proof from yesterday's video. First Last is here. Cool Papa J Magic. Franklin. Tink is here. Anglo-Saxon. Klomp is here. Crangs. Is that what that is? Elaine Sabatino. Oh, Beck. That's the name of that band that sang the I'm a loser, baby, so why don't you kill me? A suicide siren. That's what this song is. It's a suicide siren. Stephanie is here. Walker says he sings of misery of the modern world and then celebrates the central pillar of it all and why people are miserable. Anti-whiteism. You're precisely right. Singing of the misery of the modern world. And then saying, we've got to turn to our diversity. Oliver, there aren't any holders of power that are trying to split people up, brother. If they want to split people up, they would just specifically tell each group of people based on race and based on religion that the others are awful. Do they do that? Did you ever see that in school? Did you ever see that in media? You've never seen that, Oliver. Never. What they do instead is they tell everybody, white, non-white, religious, not religious, that everything awful in the world is caused by white people. That white people are inherently evil. You know, you've heard that your whole life. So they're not just trying to divide people. And therefore, the response is for everybody to come together. The response needs to be a demand to the end of the victimization of Western kind, white people, Westmen, on the basis of our birth. Everyone. Oliver, when I'm talking to Oliver, I'm talking to every one of his fans. I don't know how many will end up listening, since YouTube does such a great job silencing me, unlike everybody who wants to talk about Oliver. And Oliver, to this day, how many views does he have now? 1 hour, 82,000 views. Still under 1 hour. 82,000 views. Jay Bishop is here. Rory is here. Irish Nick. Victorian Time Traveler says he's cussing himself because he knows he betrayed his people. Absolutely. I had people writing in the thread saying, oh, he didn't say he was going to represent white people. He didn't betray anybody. No. You come to that conclusion because you've been taught that you don't have a people. So once again, I'm proven right yet again. Every non-white group of people, if one of their members begins singing or performing or says something that is deleterious for their people, they all, of course, with an exception here or there, the vast majority of them condemn the person as a traitor. Only the white race would be so fucking stupid to say, well, he didn't say he would stand up for you. And the white people, look, you're diseased. You have a disease. It's called anti-whiteism, and we have the cure. Could you imagine if Oliver's singing about this instead? Like the great Fournull? I know there's a lot, and just to that, I know there's like this sudden desire to start making music. And those who want to make music out there in our community, wonderful. But don't think that this is going to happen for you. You can make the perfect song. It can be wildly entertaining. It can be it can engender enthusiasm. But if you're going to hit a bunch of people, a lot of this is aleatory. That means a lot of it is chance. You have to make a song to be sort of in the lottery, but a lot of things come together. And obviously, long-time musicians and music makers will tell you this. Everything has to be just right at the exact right moment, and then bam, it speaks to the people. So he's now been heard. And there's going to be many years. I mean, unless he really blows, it's possible he could kill this even faster. Like Oliver could go out and he could say, I just got this non-white girlfriend and we're getting married. And because I got her pregnant and then at this point, though, at this moment, he's so popular, he could probably, honestly, burn the American flag. And the majority of his followers would think that it was some sort of patriotic expression. Somehow they weren't getting it. It's a patriotic expression that he's doing because they're so just taken by someone, what they believe is speaking to the pain of most good, conservative, patriotic people in the West, particularly in the United States. But he could still blow this. He could come out with his non-white pregnant wife endorsing Biden, and he could really just flush it down the toilet quickly. But I doubt he'll do that. So that means he's going to be able to speak to people for a great many years. And it's kind of queer that he decides to turn down $8 million to say anti-white things and then goes out and says anti-white things, no charge. Really? Why didn't you just take the 8 mil? What is it that they're holding you back from? What could these anti-white record labels, anti-white country music record labels be holding you back from, Oliver? That's exactly what they would have had you said. Brian is here. Anglo-Saxon is here. First Last says, would you approve if I introduced 3 new phrases here? Yeah, tag me. Go for it, brother. Time Traveler. When Thomas Jefferson said that about men created equal, he meant white Englishmen of good character. And it goes further than that. Yeah, you've got to read things in their context. But they, of course, when anti-whites want to talk about the all men are created equal, they stop the sentence right there. And they don't continue to tell you the rest of what he said there. And they don't tell you the context, which, of course, is a statement against what we suffered under and had inherited from the UK. And that is this idea that is kind of back, isn't it? That there are different strata of people and there are different laws for different people. And that some people are born better and deserve a better treatment from the law, and some people are born worse and deserve a worse treatment from the law. That's obviously what he was speaking to. That's the argument. And so he's saying there aren't born betters and born worse. So it's what he was saying exactly was that Hunter Biden is no better than the son that Oliver will eventually have. He's no better. Both births are equal. Therefore, their treatment before the law should be equal. That's what they were talking about. Of course, in my opinion, because this world that we suffer under, this tyranny that we suffer under, is not one that is trying to keep everybody apart. No, it's one that you can't contradict. And the contradictions here of anti-whiteism are not permitted. You see, you get censored. You get you get your channels that are 99.something% blacked out to the totality of the world. And I'll show you the numbers again. Your eyes will pop out of your head. There are more numbers. I looked at more accounts just randomly. They're endless, demonstrating the proof of it. Janice is here. Rooster is here. Dai Shaddai is here. Remember, tag me as No White Guilt if you have something you want me to see or repeat or a question. You may also financially gift. And let me get Entropy up and running because it's not. We'll get Entropy up and running. And we got Cash App is up and running. You can financially gift there. And Entropy is now up and running. My apologies. And of course, we have D Live. You can financially gift there in their cryptocurrency. Odyssey there in cryptocurrency or cash. On Cash App, cash, or cryptocurrencies that are there, more popular cryptocurrencies. And I will make sure I take a look to see what everybody's up to. Really, I think what I was saying earlier when it comes to Oliver is that I want Oliver to be rescued from this poison of anti-whiteism. I don't want to just like write him off and, oh well, of course he's just another anti-white. Well, of course he is. Where did he grow up? Did he grow up in Western civilization? So he's anti-white. That's what you expect to come out of these school systems in the West. In fact, that's what you see come out of a lot of homeschooling in the West, because where are they getting their materials from? That's why we have Brent Danger and the great work that he does, schoolofthewest.world. So of course he is. We'd like to be able to speak to him. We'd like to be able to speak to that audience of people that are showing up, because I'm going to tell you what, in that interview with Fox that I played some of and other people are now alluding to as well, they have a little bit of footage where they show the crowd, and it's all white, or almost all white. Non-white people there are good people showing up with the white people there. American flags everywhere. And one big white guy said, "We're going to make sure they hear us," talking about the rich men north of Richmond. These are not a bunch of people that you could go out to them and say, diversity is our strength, and they'll start chanting it. Are they? These are not the people that you're going to say to them, hey, you agree that the United States is the melting pot of the world. And I got to say, again, that really sounds like the bedpan of the world. And they're going to agree with it. No, these people are not. They're not there for that. We need to be there for them, whether or not Oliver wants to come along for the ride or not. And then maybe there'll be other opportunities with other musicians in the future that decide that they're going to speak a little bit to the angst, the fear, the sense of loss, the destruction, the rape, the gang attacks, the dismemberments, the etc. that we are suffering, the white erasure of everything that we have created in the West, our norms, the white erasure of all of those norms and mores, and they're going to speak a little bit to it so that they can steer it down another dead-end alley. And it might be intentional, or it might be more like Oliver here, unintentional. Just another victim, another consequence of the anti-white training over the course of his life. So what we do here in this community is we get to our brothers and sisters, right? We get to our brothers and sisters with the truth, with the keys to unlock this anti-whiteism, to put an end to it for the good of everybody, of all races who live in the West. The white race is the target. Everybody else is collateral damage as a consequence of what's happening to us. You need to fill the breach in the wall, and the breach is the attack on the white race. You have to name that. You have to say it, and you have to condemn them as immoral for attacking the white race on the basis of our birth. If you can't do that, you don't have a hope in hell. Davey is here. Alex is here. Trevor is here. The great Promethean Healing. Great to see you, brother. Here. Just for fun. Great to see you. Spud is here. Tell your friends. The great Four Null is here. And he of course, he's confirming here that it was 1908. Rory says, wants to hear me singing a country and Western song. Well, since I'm not a singer, I don't know how that would happen. I've got like the average guy voice. But who knows? I'm not saying it could never happen. I'm just saying I'm not practiced. For me to do anything like that, it couldn't be on my own. It would have to take like the great musicians in the white positive sphere to come and and carry me the entire way from beginning to end, because that's where I know that I'm awesome. I know that I'm amazing, but there are areas where there is nothing. There's no talent. There's no skill. There isn't incipient, nothing. That's the reality, and I'm mature enough to know and recognize it. And you all are as well, because you're not anti-white. Anti-whiteism is a disease for those who are jealous and envious of those who, for any set of reasons, they see as better than themselves. They conclude are better than themselves. Anglo-Saxon, did I mention you? I think I did. Claire. Hello. Dr. Frost is here. We're going to be talking about a couple things. I'm going to get your thoughts on, please tag me as No White Guilt. And we got some of your comments from the thread as well that we will look at and speak to. So it's all about you today and what you all are thinking. We'll take a look at the Hawaii fires and Maui specifically. And also we have a very short video of Buddy Brown talking about another plastic conservative, talking about the fires in Maui. I don't know exactly what he says. I haven't watched it yet. Rapunzel told me about it, so we'll take a look. And then there's, of course, very briefly, I'll talk to you about DeSantis, and also maybe very briefly tell you about just the title and the first paragraph of an article about the tech glass ceiling and how you can respond to that. All opportunities to empower yourself in your own thinking and when you talk to friends and strangers. Oliver, I hope you're listening, man. I hope you're listening. I want to help you. Theocracy says, I don't know, my dad is very conservative, but says that same thing. Quote, diversity is great. We are a melting pot country. So this is a great example, Theocracy enjoyer, of how conservative people, white conservative people who are the targets of anti-whiteism, parrot meme pathogens, anti-white ideas, anti-white isms, if you will. And so that is in the minds of everyone, all of us, and you as well. That's why we use the concepts in the Go Free method to create counter triggers. It's a very simple process. Nothing exotic about this, nothing mysterious. It's a very, and I mean, unless you consider working out mysterious and exotic. Nothing exotic. We do it, the training for ourselves, and then we use these concepts with our fathers, our mothers, our friends, etc., to help bring them out of this position of being anti-white, of villainy signaling anti-whiteism. Vase of Flowers is here. AC says, do you feel history of our people being attacked over hundreds of years is a must for descendants to learn what's upon us? No. And discussing who's behind it most of the time? No. Can you do anything about it? I mean, let's just say that I don't agree with you that there is a single group of people behind anti-whiteism. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that you're right. Can you do anything about it? Can anybody you talk to do anything about it? What happens to people who talk about it? We were talking on Sunday about a young lady who had the option to either go free or go white negative, and she went white negative, and she now writes a post that says she's broken, lost friends, lost her business, can't work in her field anymore. This is a normal thing. I've been here for decades in the white sympathetic sphere as a white positive actor in this grand story. And I've seen these people ruin themselves infinitely, and they never do any harm whatsoever to the group that they focus on, to the group whose story they live in. You also mentioned about the history. Should the history be taught? Absolutely not. That's revisionist history. We have to live with where people are with regard to so much of what they've learned. That's why these concepts are so valuable to us. You cannot re-educate people on all of history. And in most cases, even a bit of history. And then even when you do persuade somebody of some little bit of history, they then know they can't tell anybody else. So they don't. It doesn't go anywhere else. They know that all of the other audience is thinking X, Y, and Z about them. They don't want to lose their families, their wives, their husbands, their children, their jobs, their ability to work in the field that they've been trained for and have spent so much time learning. So thank you for asking. I appreciate the question. And I hope you can see the insurmountability of this sort of strategy being beneficial. This strategy that you're talking about right there has been given to you by others, right? It's not yours. I'm going to tell you right now, they gave you something that ruins you. They gave you something that ruins you and has never done any good, has never moved any closer for white people to recapture our destiny, has never brought anybody any closer to victimizing the ousting the said group. Never. And think of all the times the folks out there that want to say, oh, kicked out of this country and that country or whatever. Were they let back in? So is all of this naming and etc. blaming, does that actually work ever? No, not even ever. The problem is in the body of Western kind. That's why we have to address it. Then when we get to a point where you can't be anti-white in our environment, no one can be anti-white in our environment, not white people, not non-white people, then there won't be groups, whether they be racial, religious, or fraternal, or whatever, that could be harming us. Because the whole of society would turn on them instead of radical, selfish individualists saying, sure, you can come back in and just give me some money to harm these white people that I really don't care about. Because before they came in, those same selfish individuals were harming the white population for their enrichment. That's how they get to a decision like that. So I appreciate the question, and you asked it respectfully. So I appreciate that, AC. I wish more people having questions like that could be respectful when they show up. Oh, First Last said he already shared. Send it to me in text message, man, so I can find it real easy. If you want Jason to read your message, then tag him as No White Guilt, says 402 Vase of Flowers. So, did she? Based White is here and asks, what are your thoughts on the phrase, mighty white of you? Is it an MP? What is a proper response? So how is that being used? It sounds vaguely familiar, like I must have heard that somewhere. Tag me again with how it's being used on with regard to you. Our Vase of Flowers I see here says, Jason, I get depressed. Depression comes from, and I don't know if that's what you were, what Fernand was referencing, but depression comes from, and a great example is this previous question from AC. When you don't believe, and in fact it's true, that there's nothing you can do about your condition, that's where depression comes from. And I've seen it. I feel like, I mean, it's hyperbolic, but it's warranted a million times in the white sympathetic sphere. Take my experience. I know that when you look at me, you're like, he's he's muscular, he's in shape, he's virile, he's clearly in his prime in so many ways. Clearly in his prime in so many ways. But I actually have been around for a long time, and I've been doing this for a long time. If you knew somebody, been in a field for 30 years, you would listen to them, right? You're like, that guy has been around. I mean, even if he were a midwit, he would have some wisdom. Okay, so listen up. I've seen folks come in, just uncountable numbers, enthusiastic, pissed off, ready to roll, ready to make something happen, and say, what do we do? I'm here. What do we do? I got a job. I got a good job. I got a bad job. I got a family. I'm by myself. Here I am. What do we do? And then a bunch of folks, and some of them may probably with good intentions, but a lot of them just after filthy lucre, just wanting to make $1, just venal, out to make $1, doing something for themselves. They then turn to these people and they say, here's what you do. Historical revisionism. Blame the Jews. They have all the power. And we're going to talk about Maui in a minute and how your thoughts about that. I mean, we had one comment. Who was it? We had one comment, somebody saying they're so depressed looking at like what's being done to Maui. And I don't know where they were coming from with that, but I could guess because it's coming from a lot of quarters. When you're given this and you're then told, well, what we need is, now you begin all of your endless research, and we've got all these authors, you got to buy all these books, you got to watch all these videos, you got to just all of this, you got to listen to all these podcasts, and then what we need to do is take political power. Then what we need to do is control the money. Then what we need to do, and what does your brain say back to you when you say to yourself, how do we take political power? Crickets, because it's not possible. What does your brain say back to you when you put the question to it, how do we control the money? How do we control the currency? How do we set up our own state? How do we crickets? Because it can't be done that way. None of that can be done that way. And in short order, I've watched person after person succumb to depression and then orbit right out of the white sympathetic sphere. They orbit right out. And ironically, those are the ones that don't get, the vast majority of them are the ones that don't get hurt by their participation. The majority of those who get hurt by their participation, they lose their job, they lose their wife, CPS takes their kids, they stick around as like these super spreader disease agents. And they want to tell everybody, you got to be just like me. You've got to ruin your life just like me. And you can find these people by the score. And of course, what are they trying to do? They're trying to legitimize the poor choices they made by ruining the lives of those around them, by spreading the misery. So what's the opposite of having nothing productive to do? No victories. Face of Flowers, we have victories all week long. We just had another one I'm going to talk about on this coming Sunday. At the beginning of every Sunday, we celebrate a fraction of these massive victories. And they are real victories. They're victories over the ideology that operates in people's heads, therefore motivating them to do the anti-white things they do. Vote anti-white, make policy decisions that are anti-white, on and on and on. If you can beat the ideas that are in the heads of the people that are being motivated to do anti-white things, ruining the West, you have the key to victory. So take up the Go Free practice, and everybody should do this. Listen, Oliver, take up the Go Free practice. All of your fans, take up the Go Free practice. Get started using these very simple concepts with yourself, with your friends, your family, and strangers. Stick around and see how other people have massive successes in their world using these concepts, and see how rapidly it's changing our world as a consequence. Not only that, but I'm not going to spend any longer on this. But the reality is that we can change things very quickly, depending on how broadly and quickly that we spread this. Here's the thing that you can be happy about. We call it a curative contagion. People want to adopt these concepts because they work for them. The people who, oddly enough, people in like the white sympathetic sphere, they push back. It's like this desire to continue to lose, or they want to change it just a little bit so that it doesn't have to be from Jason and Team White Wellbeing because they're jealous. And I can understand that. I mean, it's like every time I turn around, I see another comment of, this guy's some kind of homosexual, but they use a different word for that, or several different words for that. He's some kind of homosexual. Look at his lips. What? You know, like genetically, I have full lips. And let me tell you, they're appreciated. And then they say, oh, but let me see if I have they're like, oh, but have you ever seen, maybe I don't have any here. Chapstick. They're like, oh, his lips, he's got lip gloss or lipstick on. Chapstick. Chapstick on beautiful lips. I'm sorry, you don't have to be so jealous. But do that vase of flowers and you'll discover you won't be depressed anymore. JK 160 is here. And if you need to look to anybody, look at me. Look how long I've been putting up. You know how many conservative types that I've seen begin villainy signaling anti-whiteism when we needed them to do something other? All right. Oh, okay. So Franklin is telling AC that I can't see your tag attempt. Yeah, you'll have to do it again. I don't see it. Oh, chamber pot. First Last says, not a bedpan, but a chamber pot. Oh, yeah, that's better. Melting pot, chamber pot. Perfect. But do you think that many Americans will know chamber pot? Probably. It'd be easy for them to look it up. Chamber pot. Yeah, I like it. Chris the Skip is here. Do you feel history of our people? Okay, so this is the same thing. What happened? Did the screen move on me? Promethean Kitchen pointing out that I could do a country song with Fourneau. Obviously, the great Fourneau would have to be like the vast majority of it. The vast majority of it. Everyone is a singer in the shower and after a few drinks, says Stephanie. I mean, I can sing like the average guy, right? Like I'm not a singer. I've sang here with y'all plenty of times, but so we said this. Who said this? This song is lame. Just another whiny country song. Stranded 360 says about Oliver Anthony's new I Want to Go Home. Let's I want to see how many views it now has. He is now at 99,000 views. It says 2 hours ago. So I guess that's over. How does it work on YouTube? You're over an hour. That means it's somewhere between an hour and 2 hours. 99,000 views. Wonder how many views we have live right now. So this is why we have to contend. We have to go to where our brothers and sisters are going to go. The anti-whites make fun of Mark Dice's lips for the opposite reason, Jason. They hate us because they ain't us. Oh, he has thin lips, then you're saying. Okay. Yeah, you're right. The anti-whites, they hate us because they ain't us. Oh my gosh, look at anus. Because they ain't us. They hate us because they ain't us. Rapunzel is here, laughing about something. I'm sure it had something to do with the animal, the squirrel, not as a euphemism for something else, the actual animal. Yeah, Mark Dice, King Dice. I mean, come on, you're going to make fun of this guy? He is like, he's a god man. We want him to go to the absolute stars. Thank God he got big when he did, and a big subscriber base when he did, because I don't know if he's been moving much since the clampdown came. Arden White says, my ex's non-white girlfriend, oh boy, tried to complain to CPS about my teaching my white son about no white guilt. And I share the URL with the social worker. She agreed with everything I said. The social worker did? That's a massive testimonial. You're in Canada, right? Holy moly. The social worker. That's epic. That is epic. Everywhere else, the social workers are going to show up, and any other expression that from the white sympathetic sphere, the immediate reaction is, well, we'll just be taking those children. I heard decades ago horror stories of people like, I remember this one very vividly, the guy standing in the bay window, seeing them pull up, the social worker and police, and then hit the deadbolt on the door. I'm not going to go through the whole story, and was trying to gather up the kids to flee. It was just awful. And he had decided to Nazi LARP. So what a surprise that these you would put on like the most ugly example of a antagonist in the anti-white narrative. And then you wonder, how did they find me? Why are they motivated? Why are they this motivated to come and like destroy my family and my life? Take off the outfit of the demon in their story. Visionary says he would like to look at his own lips, but he can't smooch them out that far. What keeps happening on my screen? It keeps jumping. Oh my gosh. Rapunzel and her undying squirrel. She was bitten by a squirrel. She has this very female-like mind. In most cases, this females, that all animals are in the real world are just like Disney made them. And so, of course, like feeding and petting the wild animals, and the squirrel bit her, and she needed to have rabies shots just in case the thing had rabies. And now it's a lifelong war against these what do you call them, furry sons of Satan, or furry face sons of Satan, or something like this. All right, Samuski is here. Let's keep moving. I'll check Cash App. We have the great First Last is over here on Cash App. God bless you, brother. A true champion. He can't be stopped. He's financially gifting now, but he's also coming up with terms to use, like chamber pot, or suggesting a term that exists to use. $5 financial gift. He writes, the adoration of Oliver is a hope hoax. Oh, yeah. I really like that one, too. Yes. What a great contribution. A hope hoax. Let's use that. It's a hope hoax. Well done. He definitely has a knack, and he's made a good many contributions. We'll try that out in the field, and we'll see how it works. Magnificent. A hope hoax. That's it over there. Did she not come back? She-Gal could tell you her own story about the squirrels. Let me check Entropy. All right, Entropy is blank, so we didn't miss anybody. Hello over there to Billy. Is it Billy Tree? Is it hot in Virginia? It's hot everywhere I go, my friend. It is, was in the 80s today. It's going to be in the 80s, mid 80s tomorrow at here and down in Farmville, where that gentleman on your screen, the red-haired one, is going to be performing live for a crowd of a little over 1,000, I think. And we have a $10 financial gift over here on Odyssey, and it's from Humongous. Thank you so much. Humongous says, fell short of optimal. Oh no, that was, it says 1 hour ago. Didn't I read this? I think Odyssey has problems. I think that was from Sunday. Yes, it was from Sunday. I read that on Sunday. But anyhow, thanks again, Humongous. And looks like Winged Productions is over there. So we'll keep moving along here. I did a video yesterday about Oliver Anthony. And I talk about how a lot of us, we came, it was like coming out of the woods behind him, the dark woods behind him. And we're sort of like, maybe like vase of flowers, or started like moping through life. And we have our struggles, and all we do our whole lives is lose to these destroyers, these anti-white destroyers. There's no like big success back when we're relying on other people. With white well-being, we win regularly. But you're looking to like the politicians, the companies, the school boards. I mean, look, right here in Northern Virginia, in Fairfax, it's one of 4 counties, I guess, that are telling Governor Youngkin to get bent, that they're just going to disobey the governor, and they're going to continue helping children to transition without their parents' consent. Maybe I might not be saying that exactly right. So, of course, check it out. The ear is against the door. But that's what they're saying. They're saying that they can keep secrets from parents. And they can, if a child wants to be seen and treated as the opposite gender or no gender or some newfound gender, then the schools are going to give in to that. And so people wonder, like in my book, like, how is that happening in Northern Virginia back when you were in junior high school? How was it that bad? There you have it. So I talked about coming out of the woods, and we hear this song, and the way he sings it, and the music itself speaks to a great many white people. There's no denying it, right? And they've experienced it. They've experienced the welfare, for example, being defrauded, used as a source of living rather than something to pick you up when something has gone wrong. On and on throughout the whole song. They felt every moment of it. And so they're showing up to Oliver. And then Oliver starts saying these very strange things I point out in the video, that he's doing this for humans. Like, what the hell does that mean? And that he is, and then, of course, on Fox News down in North Carolina, he tells everybody, well, diversity is our strength, and we're the melting pot, the chamber pot of the world, and etc. So people are now, lots of people, an increasing number of people are now disillusioned, and they're upset. And so that's what I'm asking in the video. Are you disillusioned? So I launched this video with the tags, and I tweeted at YouTube, and I asked nicely, I wanted it to be on record, please remove the censorship, because it's obvious. And I make sure I have all the tags that the other channels are using that are getting these great results. And I go further. I even fill the description with news about Oliver and his links in the description. And it's in the title, it's everywhere. I do everything. And I launched the video. This is yesterday. And just quickly, we'll just breeze through this. Two people, Cam and Chris, this black man and his wife or girlfriend or whatever, friend, co-worker, they released their video 2 hours before mine, the exact same, on a reaction to Oliver Anthony. And their video was 9 minutes. I want to point this off also as well, because people talking about people talking about, oh, your video is just too long, or your videos are too long. And so that's the reason. 4 minutes. Their video was nine minutes. And they have 13.5 thousand subscribers. And in 2 hours, they had 8.1 thousand views. I had, in 2 hours, just over 200 views. Let's see how they're doing right now. Them, yeah. Okay. So it's coming up around to 24 hours for Chris and Cam. And they now have 32,000 views. That's where they're at right now. I'm at, 1,200 views? Remember, they had 13.5 thousand subs. Another content creator called Hateful J launched his reaction video to Oliver Anthony, and it's all the same song, not this one. It's Richmond, North of Richmond. An hour before me. His video 9.5 minutes long, and he has 20.7 thousand subs. So that's close. I have 24,000 subs. In 2 hours, he had 9.8 thousand views. Let's see how many views. Again, I had just over 200. So if there's any question about whether or not I'm under oppressive censorship, you can take this and knock people's teeth out with it. So he is now at 1 day around now, not quite a day, 80,000 views. 80,000. Oh, he's black too, if I forgot to say. 80,000 views. The last one I will mention is another black guy called Scotty, and I'm not choosing specifically black people. In fact, I have a white female. I was just randomly picking channels that are doing reviews of Oliver Anthony, Richmond, North of Richmond. Scotty 407 is he had 442 subs. 442 subs. His video was 8 minutes long on Oliver Anthony and Richmond, North of Richmond. And in an hour or 2 hours, I didn't write the note down here, but it would have been one or the other, 475 views. Now remember, I was just over 200 with 24,000 subs. So let's see where he's at today. Now remember, this guy, 442 subs, 8 minute long video, 21 hours ago, 5,000 views. 5,000 views. And I have 1,200, 1,300 maybe now. Really quickly, there was another one, My Free Life channel, 6 minute video, 2.2 thousand subscribers, 24,000 views. This is all under a day. Some of these are like 6 hours. Some of these are 16 hours. Son of Kratos, 13 minute long video, 9.6 thousand subscribers, 122,000 views under 24 hours. Black guy. 9.6 thousand subs, 122,000 views. YouTube said they were going to push. G.F.C, Susan said they were really going to push the non-white content creators. And boy, they not only are pushing them, but silencing me totally. You have Slashly Reacts. And so that, I think, is a white female. Is it? Let's see. Now, hers is an actual reaction channel. And so there was a objection saying, oh, you're not being censored. These channels are all reaction channels. No, they're not. They're gun channels. They're politic channels. They're like whatever the content creator wants to produce kind of channels. Some of them are reaction channels. Slashly is a white female with piercings up the side of her nose, in the middle of the nose, up the ears, and tattoos on her, covering her left arm. And she has 31,000 subscribers. One day, her video is up for one day, 76,000 views. There was Randomine Records, 3.2 thousand subs, 4.7 thousand views under one day. All Points TV. No, I think that's the final one I'll mention. You got Rob Reacts, another reaction channel. 12-minute video, 11.4 thousand subs, 23,000 views under one day. Masked Dragon Reacts, another reaction one. 1.4 thousand subs, 5.7 thousand views. Yee Dottie, 2.12 thousand subs, 16,000 views. 21 CD, and I think this was two like drug addict looking white guys. 151 subs, 3.8 thousand views. And then this All Points TV. This was an older black guy. All Points TV. And let's see where he's at now. And this is it. 1.6 thousand subs. And in one day, 47,000 views. And I have 1,200. So YouTube is absolutely, I mean, this is an absolute black hole as far as YouTube is concerned. They're not telling anybody at 99 point whatever percent clamp down, not telling anybody beyond us communicating it. That's important for us to know because we have to get this information to people then. For those of you who were told by YouTube, man, consider yourselves unicorns. And then they're also stifling my announcements that I'm going live or that I just released a video. So you've got to follow me on other platforms. I mean, this has been the biggest insult. And this is technology that what people created. What people out there were the ones that the primary drivers, inventors, creators, etc. What about all the things, inventors, creators, all of the technologies, all of the infrastructure and etc. What people was that built all of that for this to be able to be built? What language are we speaking in? What people created that language? How about the computer languages? Where did they come from? We can go on and on and on. But the proud, fit white man who doesn't hate the white race, who isn't anti-white enough, isn't covered in tattoos, doesn't have piercings all over my fucking face, that guy is put in a fucking coffin under the satanic church so that no one can ever find us. That's what anti-whites do. That's what they do. And then they continually hit you in the face with this bullshit of these other content creators and these unbelievable views. Like, why would anybody in their white mind give a half a shit for what all of these different folks think about Oliver Anthony? But that's getting pushed. It's in your face. It's in your face. So you're like, well, who's Oliver Anthony? I got a choice of among like these 20 black creators. And again, nothing against black people rocking it and making money. I mean, I'm already demonetized. I can't make any money on YouTube or through Google. So more power to them to make money and to ride this wonderful wave of preferential treatment and special privileges and probably freedom from responsibility. They're probably able to do things like show a firearm on a live stream and it's okay. More power to you to be able to do that. That's where they find themselves in the world. They're going to take advantage of it. But don't dare tell me that they are the oppressed ones while I'm here in this casket underneath a satanic church on Mars so that nobody can find me. Don't tell me I'm the one with the privilege, motherfucker. Don't tell me. I know who's got the privilege, and it ain't white males. Total bullshit. Why don't we make fun of a 5 minutes of a plastic conservative, not real. Let's get through it and laugh at him because he is ridiculous. Here you go. 5 questions you're not allowed to answer. And I wonder if his accent disappears from time to time as well. Just like Oliver. He gets interviewed and all of a sudden his accent's gone. That's neat. So I guess, is the whole thing fake except for the poverty and maybe the mental illness? Five things you're not allowed to ask about celebrity land in Hawaii. So we're talking about Maui. There were the fires out there. And if you think I'm going to go down the road of wild stories, then you haven't been watching me very long. You haven't been going free very long. Irrespective of what you think actually took place in Maui, the bottom line is that you have a productive way to address what happened in Maui and a counterproductive way to address what happened in Maui. And we'll get to that. You could probably think about it as we take a look at this head that's been hollowed out by cucky dollars and celebrity at over 1,000,000.02 subscribers now. He continues to grow.
Top of the morning, y'all. This channel's for anybody that doesn't believe what they hear on the news, but
whoa, he needs to. I know I mentioned it before, but for God's sake, get this man a man's ear.
Does believe most of what we hear on CB radio.
Look at, what is this? Can you see my cursor? What is this?
If you want to know where
if you want to know, boy, if you want to know how to, is he getting ready to transition? Is that what's happening? By the way, I don't know if y'all can see this. Y'all see that? That's a scan of my brain. I took so much pride in my scan of my brain. I framed it. That's me. So Buddy Brown is transitioning. He's on them chemicals. He wants to transition. What's he going to be? Betty Brown? It's going to be Betty Brown next.
We're at in America's timeline right now. I feel like it's the movie Titanic where the boat is already sinking and Cal is running around shooting a pistol at Jack and Rose. It's a complete circus.
Okay.
96 dead, over 1,000 people missing, and our fearless leader right here.
Doesn't he often, if not always, have a gun present? I mean, it's so fake. I hope that Southern people, I hope that country people see through this. Just see through it. What did your daddy's truck look like? Was it all beat up, rusted, and had holes in it from actual use and being an actual Southerner, an actual country person? Or was it like all plastic looking and everything framed just right?
Here is kicking back on the beach with his toes in the sand.
All right, yeah, this is true here. Look at this piece of shit, Biden. Asked about what happened in Maui, he said no comment. Trump told about the death of the Supreme Court justice, one that not worth liking, and he had immediate words, able to extemporaneize right there on the spot and speak to the lost life. Biden, he can't speak to whether or not he brushed his teeth this morning or 5 minutes ago or what brushing teeth is. He's sleeping the whole time. How is this? I mean, talk about theft. Talk about an obvious theft of an election. And then what's going to happen now? Are you going to actually tell me that this guy becomes president again? That'll be the biggest. If we thought the last one was highway robbery, well, you wait. Because if they push this thing through, this corpse through again, it'll be a highway robbery to make the last one look like a joke.
Honest question.
Well, he also said, did you all see this, Biden, where he went to Maui? Totally inappropriate. He goes up and he starts talking about how the woman in charge of whatever in Hawaii, she has the same name as one of his nieces, and probably the one that he didn't, recognize, or maybe the one he didn't recognize because it was from a prostitute that Hunter had sex with for a while, dated for a while or whatever. And then he says, well, I like her because she has the same name. And then he's talking about somebody else working in the Hawaiian government, and he's built like a linebacker. You are standing in front of the charred remains of an entire city. And this is what's coming to your enfeebled brain. It's Swiss cheese, folks. This is a maniacal demon with a rotting brain. Then he goes on to recount a story to say that he and Jill can identify with the Hawaiians who have had their sons and daughters get incinerated in fire. And they knew every moment of it. Their husbands, their wives, their brothers, their sisters, their pets, their homes, and all their memories in their homes burnt to ash. Their jobs, where they make a living to be able to pay for that expensive place, burnt to ash. And he shows up and says, well, we had a kitchen fire and it was out in 20 minutes, but somehow I was able, even though I was in DC, I was able to watch the firemen put the fire out in Delaware, which is more than 20 minutes away from DC. I mean, just how can this be happening? How can this be real? It's because the people that we have pushing back against our victimization are people like this, and the people following him at 1.02 million following him. And what kind of information is he going to provide them? Let's listen.
Question number one, and this is about Oprah. This whole video is really, really just interesting. I just feel like these questions are never going to get asked, so let's ask them right here. If Oprah is...
People are asking questions about Oprah and other celebrities everywhere. This guy is high on his own stash.
So left-leaning, and she's so woke, and she's such a big pioneer believer in equality. I don't think it'd be right for her 2,000 acres to stand undamaged. Do y'all? You know
he owned him. Oh, he got him there, didn't he? Oh, buddy Brown, you got him there. You really got him. Oh, her acre, because her belief system is this, and so we should just burn down her property. You got him. What a loser.
Oh, there's people floating out in the ocean, holding on to a piece of plywood, just trying to survive for their life. This is about standing by your values of equity, Oprah. So if you really believe that, they should take away from the ones who...
God, that is like kindergartenish. Your values are equity. And so I call on you to burn down your own property. And if you don't, you're a hypocrite. Really? Fuck, you're dumber than I thought you were. Maybe it's all those estrogen tablets doing it to you.
Who have earned it and give to the people who haven't, or give to the people who are unable, which is what equity says, so that they can stand just as high, then why doesn't she just burn down her two?
No, because it's about victimizing Western kind, buddy. It's not about what that's a pretext, buddy. So stop thinking you own the anti-whites by saying these sorts of things. I'm sure you've been saying it your whole life.
1,000 acres that she owns in solidarity to the Hawaiians who have lost everything. Well, that's pretty extreme, buddy. Well, yeah, so is the belief in equity. Next question. Why was Oprah's land not completely scorched to the ground?
I can answer that because I don't know what he's going to say, but wealthy people have systems to water the entire property so that it's always beautiful. We see it here. It doesn't matter. There have been years here where have been lean on water, but the lawns of wealthy people, colossal lawns, are all green and the trees are all healthy. That's how.
You know, because if I light a barrel on fire and I throw a $1 bill in there and a $100 bill in there, do you think that fire is going to distinguish whatsoever between the $1 bill and the $100 bill?
Erroneous. Inapplicable.
Absolutely not. Fire's fire, and fire takes out everything in its path. So why, pray tell, will nobody ask in a press conference to Biden why all these mansions are still standing just fine, unfazed and untouched? Question number 3 is really fun. Why does Oprah and all of her billionaire buddies not go on the record right now, just to do the classy thing, go on record right now saying, we pledge and we declare we will never, ever land grab anything in Maui. We won't put up high-rise hotels. We won't invest. We won't have anything to do with it. That way, everybody can know that our motives are clear. Why don't they just do that? It'd be the classy thing to do, because everybody's calling you out and saying this is exactly what's happening. You could put all those fears to ease. Question number 4. Why?
No. Why would they do that? and you're talking about them like they're like the government and all potential investors are a single person. No. There are tons of investors that are motivated by opportunism, and they see that people have had their entire properties and places they work burnt down, and it's very expensive to live in Hawaii. So naturally, they're going to immediately show up and say, we'll buy that from you because we can make a lot of money. Of course, that's going to happen.
Have so many residents in Maui had their phones ringing off the hook from realtors asking, you want to sell your land? Are you kidding me? Who wants to buy scorched land? Who wants to
buy scorched land? The same people who can make a swamp near you into a shopping mall.
Be any part of that? Why is there not a law that says a realtor can't even make a call to somebody after something like this happens in a natural disaster for a year? And question number 5 is, why is the supposed most popular...
What about the people who say to themselves, buddy, that my house is gone, my memories are gone, maybe I lost a loved one or a pet or both, and my job is burnt to the ground. I want to leave. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to continue to see this place. I want to remember it how it was. I think they would probably want to be contacted.
Popular president in United States history, telling Hawaiians last night that he knows what it's like to lose something too, because a lightning struck his house back in 2004 and he almost lost his Corvette, his 67 Corvette. That's what he said last night.
That was it. Yeah, he thought he was making a joke about that. He's like, well, the kitchen caught fire and I almost lost my wife in a fire in the kitchen that was under control in 20 minutes. And then he said, and I almost lost my Corvette. To a bunch of people who have had their total world incinerated, loved ones and etc.
I'm serious. I just heard that the total death count could be over 1,000 people, because that's how many folks are missing right now. In the little town of Lahana, which has a population of about 13,000, if they lost 1,000, that's almost 10% of their entire population wiped out. Y'all, there's no doubt in my mind, climate change activists have a big old woody right now, and they get off on this extreme stuff. They get off on extreme tornadoes, extreme weather, earthquakes, floods, and fires. But it's funny to anybody who's ever cracked open a Bible, because we already knew this was coming to a theater near you. Luke 21:11, there will be earthquakes, there will be great famines, pestilence in various areas, and fearful events, and great signs from heaven.
Yeah, folks, let me tell you something. When it comes to the Bible or any religion or anybody claiming to be able to tell you the future, If there's any sort of deity or alien power that's going to do something, it's going to be easy to differentiate it from everything that you've ever experienced, all right? It's going to be real easy. It's going to be totally easy. So don't keep, if you continue to look at predictions like that and you're like, well, here are the signs, then you're going to be trapped like everybody else that gets trapped in the hamster wheel of it's always around the corner. It's always around the corner. 100 generations later, it's always around the corner. So it's not going to be the earthquake that you've experienced. It's not going to be the 7 on the Richter or whatever. It's going to be like the 47. You're not going to have any problem differentiating, all right?
Look, people didn't read the handbook and they're freaking out about it right now. This really should be Biden's.
So he's actually saying, this twit is actually saying that what Jesus, this is Armageddon. These are like the end days. God damn.
But I don't believe that the media is ever going to let that happen. Your tax dollars and mine are being stolen by a Democratic government. And it's being laundered over to Ukraine. $40 billion for them. $700 for each Hawaiian family.
Yeah,
and
that's despicable. And only an anti-white government would do this, not take care of the citizens of its country and give how many? I think it's like 150 billion or whatever. I could be way wrong. Of course, check CNN. And then 700 per household or whatever it is over there.
And all of
and
that.
where are they going to spend it? You know?
Which makes me sick to the stomach is Hawaiians will still probably vote blue in 2024. And I don't know.
And why is that? Anti-whiteism. Anti-whiteism. We explain it very clearly here. It's a mystery to him. Look at him right there. It's a mystery.
How to help anybody like that?
Don't know how to help anybody like that. We do. We either condemn or help them. And so many of his listeners are doing the same thing. I just don't know. Just don't understand it. Well, we do. Tell that 1.02 million to come over here, and I'll explain it to them step by step.
You know, and since nobody would dare ask any of these questions to Biden on air, to all you journalists that are too scared to get in his face and ask this kind of stuff, you're a complete insult.
They're not scared. They're anti-white.
To your own family's bloodline.
You're an insult to you. You got them there, buddy. You got them. They're an insult to their bloodline.
Your ancestors are in the grave right now thinking you're weak as hell. You're a complete coward.
Oh, boy. Yeah, you got them. You burned them, buddy, deep. You burned them deep with that, man. Bet, true, real. You burned them, man.
And it's got to be done right here. It's got to be asked like this. God bless all you patriots still standing strong. We don't care about your jobs, journalists.
Right,
we care about our lives. Think about that. Ask the hard questions and get it done like a man should.
All right. So, unsurprisingly, a nitwit. Take a look at what you're saying, then we'll read this article a bit. I want to, while we spend so much time on Oliver Anthony and what he's doing and his audience, which are composed of good folks, the vast majority, of course, we got to extol our musical geniuses. You know, people like Fernald, people like R.C. the Realist. We need to support each other in the entertainment we create, products we provide, services we provide. Support each other when we're on arguments online. Support each other when we're feeling down, like Vase of Flowers. I saw JK160 say, don't be depressed. You don't have to be depressed or something like this. That's the kind of thing we have to do. We can go as far as like cachinnating at people like Buddy Brown, but we definitely need to take time to stop and say that we cherish each other in service to white well-being. We cherish this community, and we're going to actually take care of each other. It's not just going to be a platitude. It's not just going to be something we say that has no meaning to it, right? Owning Anti-White Goblin says, no offense to Christians, but when people always blamed it on Armageddon and said only God could stop it, it felt like a huge cop-out. It is. It is a huge cop-out. God is not going to, and where else did I see that? Somebody was saying this. Somebody was saying that it's like God's going to have to do it. Well, nothing's going to happen then. The creator, God, whatever you want to call the creator, has clearly demonstrated that he will only move to help when you have reached the zenith of effort and glory in service of his creation. And that's for an example, the preservation of what he created. He created us. And so that's what we need to be doing. Then he'll come along and help out. Tim Scott is here. Montana Kid, great to see you. Finger Fretter. Ready Rockener. Hello. Getting a busty, Buddy Duddyful says, getting a busty female co-host with a low-cut top may be the only way to get around their censorship. No, they're not going to tell people about me and this channel at anything greater than, or anything beyond that 99 point something censorship, even if there is some knockout female. But that's funny. I see what you're saying. Might get people to stick around a little bit longer who would rather not have to do anything in service to white well-being. Dan says, hey, Jason, how do we talk to our coworkers about white well-being without getting fired? Wonderful question. In fact, there are people in this live chat, I'm sure right now, that have talked with their coworkers about white well-being. And there are many testimonials that I've shared. And one of the most recent that comes immediately to mind is a guy who introduced some of our concepts and later was promoted. There are actually more than a handful of people who, when they come forward sharing the concepts that we use here in service to white well-being, they have positive outcomes at work. So one of the ways you talk about white well-being, using our lexicon, for example, you can talk about, and how should Maui be talked about? I mean, we'll come to that. We come to that question. And Dan, keep an ear out for that, because it'll be very soon. And we'll talk about exactly how you can talk to people about Maui in a way that can be productive and is not going to get you fired from your job like other strategies will. I mean, you could work someplace that, like, I'm sure if I worked at YouTube, they would fire me because I'm not anti-white. So you could work at some place that's just radically anti-white, but the vast majority of places are not. And so by utilizing the concepts that we have here, for example, principally talking about putting an end to our victimization on the basis of our birth and how that shouldn't be done to anybody. And you're gonna say no more anti-whiteism. You're not for it. You object to anti-whiteism just like you would object to people being anti-black. Your coworkers will respond to that positively. If you are in an environment where that sort of courage and morality of same treatment for all and willing to say not even to white people, if that's an environment where they are really going to penalize you for it, then you might not be in the safest work environment for a white person, right? They're getting ready to get rid of you anyhow. So you really need to be looking elsewhere to protect you and your family. Freedom Advocate, that guy sounds like Gomer Pyle. Oh my God, he does. Andy? Did you know that Gomer Pyle, at least I think I'm thinking of the right guy. I've seen him. He has that like high-pitched, really goofy, well, golly, isn't that what he said? Well, golly. And then I heard him singing, and he's got like this deep, rich voice. It was amazing. Actually, the actor, actually a talented person, I think. Or was. Is he still alive? Probably not. Thank you, Samuski, for helping Dan to get his question to me. Time Traveler says, Buddy Brown is a funny clown, except he fails at being funny. So true, my friend. I don't know if you saw what I said earlier, but you were right. You were right about it being purely censorship. I didn't realize how bad it was. Thank you for saying that. Owning anti-white goblins. Thank you. I mean, now people really get to, when we have comparisons like this, you really get to see how deep the censorship is, how deep the blacklisting is. Because it's like cutting you up into pieces and throwing you down a dark pit. That's what they do with you. So I think it's as more and more people come around, and certainly generations to come, censorship to them is going to have a really hollow. They're like, what's that? They're not even going to know how deep and true it is. So we get to see here. Got my video I made about it, and then this follow-up. If Ollie had the balls, he'd write a song. Oliver had the balls. He'd write a song about what's going on in South Africa. Oh, boy. Freedom advocate. Well said. But you know he won't do it. Of course he won't, because he'd be standing up for white people. And he's for no individual people, or he's for human beings. Samuski says if he's able to make money off of his new White Wellbeing YouTube channel, he'll send every penny this way. Well, God bless you, brother. I really appreciate that dedication to white well-being. Good on you. See, that's the dedication that we have to extol. I know several losers that told me they spent several hours watching just the reaction videos. What a waste of time, says Freedom. Yeah, what an absolute waste of time. Freedom also says that he predicts that Oliver will do a We Are the World type recording with a group of people that none of us would waste our time on. Yeah, I could see that. That's a great prediction. Ash is with us. Great to see you. Freedom Advocate says Billy Bragg just released a response song and video. Tag me again. Does it support Oliver Anthony, or is it contentious? What is it? Let me know. Tron Traveler says if you don't have the tools to go free, the only option you have are villain LARPing and surrender. Yeah, precisely. We've been putting up with that forever. AC says, just got the Go Free book, sadly, through Amazon, though. Don't worry about that, man. We're not going to take down Amazon. Billions and billions and billions and billions in worth. So don't worry about it. Don't let that bother you at all. Thank you for getting it. And you are on the verge of having your whole world blown wide open. Stick with us, and you'll become a true champion to change to change our destiny, recapture our destiny, put an end to what's happening here. Freedom Advocate says it's basically, I guess, poking fun at Oliver. The title is Rich Men Earning North of $1 Million. Okay. I might have to find that. Myra is here. White Girl is here. Great to see everybody showing up. Let me check. Over here, make sure we're not missing anybody who is financially gifted. Okay, didn't miss anybody on Cash App. And didn't miss anybody over here on Entropy. But if we did, let me know. Tag me in one of the chats let me know that you gifted on Entropy, and it didn't. I'm not seeing it. I don't see anything there right now, so I can look on the dashboard if you did. All right, we got. Looks like nothing on D Live. Oh, didn't miss anybody. Didn't miss anybody on Odyssey. And hello to, is that Bianca over there on Rumble? Hello to people on Rumble watching today. I have it up. I guess I'll have it up from now on. First Last says, thank you for your work. Well, thank you for thanking me. I really appreciate it. I am, let's see. Let's see. We're going to get in. We'll read this article. But I think before we do, I'm going to... oh, didn't mean to do that, but it's okay. Where are we? Laid back. Roland's are a bit more laid back, as you know. Let's go ahead and take 30 seconds, roughly, for a excellent Fournol and I don't who's the other? Franklin will know who the other artist is. I got to write it down. Here it comes. That is FNK, I guess. White Step with the great Fournol. We have to extol our audiences, our audiences. Well, our audience as well. But us as an audience have to extol our musicians. And they're doing wonderful things. First Last, amazing. I told you I got to listen to him in person, do songs that he has written, never shared with anybody. And I likened it to what I imagine it must have been like for people at the height of Elvis Presley to be able to sit in audience to him and hear those songs performed that everybody loved and maybe some ones that nobody had heard before. It was an amazing experience. Truly talented gentleman. So let's pick up this article again, and we will continue rolling on our roll-in. All right, there we are. Americans deserve better than climate change. I'm sorry, I had to step away for a moment. What was that? 30 seconds? 30 seconds. Nature called. That's all I can say. Nature called, and whew, it was some cold water. Cold water. All right. Let's get rid of this one. Let's get rid of Buddy. Americans deserve better than climate change lies. Here's what's really caused the Maui wildfires by Kristen Walker. This is a Daily Caller. The wildfires that raged on Maui are a sad and tragic event that will no doubt take years to overcome and rebuild. The most serious blaze swept through the coastal town of Lahaina, where almost every building has been destroyed. But the powerful flames of the state's deadliest wildfire hadn't even finished their devastation before alarmists began spouting climate change rhetoric. And this is how your basic Republican or your basic conservative will address what happened in Hawaii. And this, of course, is an unproductive way to address what took place in Hawaii. This is boy, look at what the Democrats, look at what the wokies are doing. They're just before the bodies are cold. How many times have you heard that in your life? I can't. There are times when it's appropriate to say that, but that's all their argument is. That really that's all that went wrong there. Really, is that all that went wrong in Maui? Was that the wokies are already using the disaster for their benefit? And how is that news to you? I mean, don't they always do that? Isn't that what they always do? California Governor Newsom, climate enthusiast and gas-powered vehicle cynic, lamented that, whoa, you got him there. Lamented that Californians know firsthand the devastating toll and catastrophic wildfires fueled by climate change, except that we've always been dealing with fires in California. Hawaii Senator Mazie Hirono pointed fingers at climate change and attacked states she claims still have a head in the sand attitude toward climate issues. California Representative Ro Kahona called on President Biden to declare a climate emergency. And all of this is to accomplish what? Now, if you don't understand what's really happening here, then it's very difficult to come to a counter argument. It's very difficult to formulate them. And what are you going to do? Are you going to go cite, as I used to do when I was totally wrong and changed my ways? Are you going to cite all of the data from scientists that say, oh, this is not the case? Are you going to cite where a lot of these arguments came from? Are you going to, like, going all the way back to the first big article, getting it started by a cartoonist? Are you going to go to that? Are you going to, what are you going to do? And what is your audience? How are they going to receive it? It's totally useless. If you point out what these individuals are motivated to do, and that this is another excuse yet again. So you see how beautifully the Go Free system works. You can be a midwit, you could even be a midget wit, and take on the climate scientists. But you could be all the way up to a laureate and knock people down with the Go Free lexicon and dialectics. Even Hawaii's governor, Joshua Green, couldn't resist that level of destruction and fire. Hurricane, something new to us in this age of global warming, was the ultimate reason that so many people perished. So what are we seeing here? I want you all to participate. What are we seeing? You're seeing time and again how the victims, the direct victims of what's happening in the world, and then the indirect ones, the collateral damage, respond to the victimization in an ineffective, effete way. Also sometimes in a flippant way, because they think that's going to somehow work. And we see that all of these things don't work. And then you're given an alternative. And maybe the alternative to these arguments, like, well, The climate doomsdayers, they're just wrong. The science says otherwise, they would say. And this is, look at what the wokies do. They're immediately moving to capitalize off of this natural disaster, off of the shooting, off of whatever. They ignore all the other ones. Look at how much they're hypocrites. And then that's like the point that you're making, which is ineffective. And you should know that, because has it ever worked in your life? Be honest, it never has. And these things keep marching along, keeps getting worse and worse, so that people like Oliver Anthony can write these lugubrious, these morose. Lugubrious is the word for it. Lugubrious. Remember that word. Well, you maybe don't have to remember it, but it's just like this extreme saturnine, i.e. sad, woe is me kind of sadness. I just want to go home to heaven attitude, right? That's what results from these sort of arguments, because you're always just losing. You're never touching on the reason for these things. Why are these things happening? But then there's an alternative out there where you can begin to lose your mind and really get depressed, where you say, they have all this power and they are using it to laser beam the island. I'm seeing all this stuff just like you all. They've laser beamed the island. That's how much power they have, that they're laser beaming everything. And then they intentionally cook everybody on the island. These are some of these arguments coming out now. And then here's, and the reason they're doing it is because they want a smart city. And so they just decided they were going to vaporize everybody to have their smart city. What does that argument do for you? Now, I imagine that very few people who will bother to listen to me will go the traditional conservative route of saying that, well, their science is wrong and our science is right. And even though they keep getting what they want, and they're just capitalizing off of the cooling bodies, right? You have that. Those people are not likely to be here, but there might be some here who occasionally have a crotchet. And that's an odd whim. Now, if you genuinely believe that they're taking lasers and they're cooking an island of people and they're trapping them in there to kill them all so that they can buy up their property and then build a smart city, if you actually believe that, don't tell a soul, because you will destroy your credibility. Absolutely destroy your credibility. You have to be mindful of how you're going to be received. You are the message. You are the actual message. When you bring the tools of Go Free, you don't want them to follow or to be followed by something that sounds fantastical, because your audience will interpret everything you say from then forward and everything you had said before then in that same fantastical, this must be where these concepts come from. This must be the kind of ideas that they're talking about over there. You do not want to do that. That is a counterproductive thing. So if you believe the island was lasered to pieces, don't tell anybody. I mean, if you have like a buddy somewhere and you both want to like entertain these things, or maybe you just think it's fun to sit around and speculate. But there's another danger that I want to tell you about. Maybe you all have already seen it in yourself, and we've touched upon it several times. When you talk about our victimizers as omnipotent, and that means all powerful, able to just laser beam an entire island and cook all the people up, there's nothing you can do. That is the quickest way to put you into a deep, deep depression. That is the quickest way to get yourself to want to surrender, to want to just give up. Because what are you really going to do against omnipotent powers They're not only omnipotent, all powerful, but they're also omniscient. They're all knowing because they're listening through your phones. They're listening through all of your devices. What could you do against that? Well, nothing. So you surrender. Isn't that a wonderful place for the anti-whites to put you? I would even speculate and submit, and there's probably more truth to this, that when natural disasters happen, anti-whites make sure to push these sort of ideas into the population. Because if you can get your victims to believe that you are omnipotent, well, they won't resist. They'll never try. So there are two problems with telling people or even thinking about lasers and cooking everybody alive. The first is you will destroy your reputation. And you don't want to do that because you won't be able to convince them of anything good afterward, anything worthwhile afterward. Everybody that I've ever met that talked crazy talk like this, and it doesn't matter whether it's like I've told you before, even if, like I've said before, turtles, even if beavers or even if squirrels actually ran the government, there's no use in telling people that because it's unbelievable. If you have something that's unbelievable, you can't motivate them. You can't get them, you can't convince them of an idea and then persuade them to act in favor of that idea. So there's no use in even repeating it. Then you have the second problem of the effect on you. How do you feel after theorizing? And I've seen people writing about how depressed they are and how much they want to give up, and how it made them physically ill thinking about the lasering of all the people and children in Maui. So is that beneficial to a resistance to anti-whiteism in our world? Or is it harmful? Is it counterproductive? Smart people will know that it's counterproductive and it will burn your reputation to shreds. These claims that they're making about Hawaii and Maui, specifically, I guess I should say, Lahaina, can be addressed by talking about the white erasure of our standards, Western standards. Those are our standards in the state of Hawaii. We can talk about how anti-whiteism, in the form of diversifying the workforce, which means getting rid of white people, it gives you the opportunity to talk about the discrimination and persecution of white people in positions of authority. And then they give those jobs that they've discriminated against white people to non-white people and females on the basis of their being non-white and female. So what kind of a government and system do you end up with when you have the totality of a system that used to be Western and is increasingly white erased and less Western? The tools we put into place to handle tragedy, to handle a wildfire like this. What kind of consequences are you going to get when those tools, they don't receive the same upkeep and they're not given the same credence or power? And what about the human beings that are operating it? What kind of people do you get when you're hiring people on the basis of them being non-white or female? Well, you might get some people that are worthy of the jobs, but in most cases, you're going to get people that are improperly trained, people who are not up to the challenge. And what do we actually see in Maui? What we see is massive incompetence at every level. So you can talk about Maui, you can say, well, there was this hurricane offshore, there were these colossal winds, and how do you bring a fire up in its heat? How do you, so many people are, thanks to the inventions of white men, almost entirely, in my opinion, of course, have no knowledge of how to build a fire and make a fire hotter, or running a fire in the house. for their warmth. They just don't know. How do you increase the heat of the fire and the spread of the fire? With a billows, with wind. You had wind going across, and you can see the wind in these videos, massive wind. And you can see in these videos that embers are flying, the big embers of fire are flying through the air on these winds, which does what? It lands everywhere. And in the places, Maui, I understand, was under a drought. In the places where these embers land that are dry, another fire starts. And when they land on property that is irrigated and has sprinkler systems and is nice and moist, like wealthy people homes, they just burn out. They don't set everything on fire. So you have a fire get started that the power company is being sued over because why? Because the power lines themselves were in disrepair. Why were they in disrepair? Incompetence as a consequence of anti-whiteism. A desire to seek out instead avenues for green energy. That's a giant waste of money instead of on the infrastructure of the power grid. Anti-whiteism. So this gives you a very sane, realistic way to talk about what happened here and find the totality of the fault in anti-whiteism ideology and the consequences of anti-whiteism ideology applied to the state government and the positions that are filled then by anti-whites. What happened when everything was catching on fire? Well, these incompetent police department and disaster management decided that they didn't know where people should go. They couldn't get aircraft in the air to see exactly where the fire was, but they weren't smart enough and they didn't have systems in place and were trained properly to be able to set people out in places, ascertain where the fires were starting, and then develop a proper escape route. Instead, they were randomly blocking streets and sending people in the wrong direction in some cases. Not in all cases, but in some cases. Anti-whiteism again. If you put the fault where it logically lies, you have something productive you can do. You can lay all of the death, the destruction, the waste, etc., at the feet of anti-whites and across the mantle of anti-whiteism. And then where do you find the blood? On the hands of anti-whites. If you talk about galactic lasers, or just that the wokies are already trying to make political hay off of the bodies before they're even cool, you do nothing. So not much more needs to be said about this. I mean, Lahaina, apparently, look, it says right here, literally means cruel sun in Hawaiian. So if you want to think about this as galactic laser beams, that's going to harm you emotionally, psychologically, but don't tell anybody. Instead, talk about the reality of what anti-whiteism does. Do you really think for a moment what it does to people, what it does to a government, what it does in natural disasters? And I will submit to you that you're going to see a lot more incidents where there is mass incompetence in government and in disaster management and everything else, massive incompetence. And they just don't know. You see these disaster management team stepping up and unable to answer questions, totally like baffled. Don't know how many people are dead. Don't know how many people are lost. Don't know how many people, the exact number who are missing, or can even give a rounded number. That's incompetence. They're there because of their race or their sex. Which is not to say that a qualified woman or a qualified non-white person couldn't hold those positions, but they clearly don't. And that when you're hiring people because they're not white males, and increasingly not white females, then you end up with incompetence. What is our meme curative for that? I've said it so many times, it'll be crazy if nobody knows. If nobody can just say it off the tip of their tongue. But I'll take a look at what y'all are saying. I want to mention something about this tech glass ceiling and how to speak to it, but that'll just take a moment because that's another sort of up-and-coming conversation. All of these things you can use as a catalyst to introduce the concepts that we teach in White Wellbeing Going Free method. Also, DeSantis, I'll just say this. Clearly, the system wants DeSantis out of the picture. He's doesn't have what it takes to take on Donald Trump. We said this a long time ago, even when everybody was so very excited about DeSantis. And clearly, the anti-whites would rather have a non-white person being the number two to compete with Trump because they want Trump to be insulting a non-white person so that they can go after the racial angle as well. And Ramaswamy would serve that perfectly. Ramaswamy is every bit as dry as DeSantis, maybe even worse. Maybe he's even less inspiring, but he's non-white. And also, there are going to be plenty of people in the Republican Party who are also anti-white. I mean, we see this. They're all, to varying degrees, anti-whites. But they would rather have a non-white person because that satisfies their anti-white notions. Just like you saw Oliver Anthony sharing his anti-white notions, thinking that, well, these are best. So for our country, our people, peoples or whatever, you're going to have Republicans who are going to say, well, we're more likely to get more votes if he's non-white. Let me see what's over here. First Last says humans. Oh, look. Our very own Squirrel Slayer has returned. Rapunzel. Rapunzel, Rapunzel. Throw down your hair. Ezra is here. Great to see you, brother. Kinfolk is here. Wonderful to see you. Azimuth Clark, champion. Patrick Cash, is that what it was? Great to see you. Myra says, why is the world against white people globally? Great question. The answer to that question is anti-whiteism. And anti-whiteism began with us. Inter-ethnic squabbles. And we said very negative things about each other. It still happens to this day, regrettably. We called, the way I like to put it is we demonized the sons of our mother as inferior stock and etc. Ultimately, this redounded to the harm of the descendants of those claims because we all are white. That was the origin of anti-whiteism. But the seed for this anti-whiteism that works against us is in us. It's the selfish individualism that, as you can see, I mean, you look in like conservative circles or Republican circles, and they want to promote that to the moon. More individualism, more individualism. The individualism in us is innate. And it's never going to go away. It will always benefit us, that individualism. What we have today is this selfish individualism. That's been, to pun this out in a maybe not a great way, since we're talking about Maui, it's just fan to flame to consume us. So what you end up having is a bunch of selfish, individualistic white people who are out to enrich themselves at every level. But the most dangerous, of course, are the most wealthy. And they use these different anti-white notions to enrich themselves in various ways. When non-white people arrived, they also partook in this illness in us to take advantage the same way the white people were already doing it in our civilizations. This white people who brought them in to enrich themselves, to empower themselves. And so you have people who are born into the world today, and whenever an individual finds themselves to be jealous or envious of Western kind, they have this ready-made ideology that tells them it's not your fault that you have concluded that you're inferior in whatever various number of ways. It might be looks, it might be money, it might be intelligence, it might be health, whatever it is. This is white and non-white people are subject to this. And then people who never learn how to deal with not being the best looking and not being the richest and not being the healthiest and not being the fastest runner and not being etc. They succumb to this. They declare themselves to be victims of God, of fate, of whatever it is. And then they wage war on Western kind, which they place as an avatar on every single white person they come across, even when they're white. And it serves them in various ways. It enriches them, of course, financially, and it enriches them sexually. It enriches them various ways. But all of that comes later. The primary motivator there is to quell that jealousy and envy, where they have declared themselves inferior to some degree. And I believe probably the deepest level of jealousy and envy is given to the great heritage that our history bequeaths to us. You can see it. That's like most poignant for anti-whites. They really get ferocious over that. They hate that they don't have, and this includes white anti-whites, because they don't see themselves as inheritors of that great history. That's why so many of them are hideous. You see like their arrest pictures. These are really people who are not the best looking. They're not the healthiest. They're not the wealthiest. And so they hate that race that they were born a part of, but they are so in their own mind concluding that they are inferior to in maybe every way or most ways. So they don't feel themselves inheritors of that great legacy of Western civilization. And so all the time, it's about white erasing and taking away the discoveries and the inventions from us, and ignoring discoveries and inventions, ignoring the great Western civilization that we create, which is an ongoing thing. Western civilization is not in the world. It's in us, and we project it into the world. That's how things like Hawaii can be white erased. That's how we can go to these islands. And if you look up the history, maybe I'm totally wrong. CNN's probably right. But in my opinion, when white people showed up at the Hawaiian Islands, you had a number of tribes, just like everywhere else that white people showed up. And those tribes, can we call them brown or yellow tribes? What do you want to call them? They were at war with each other, sometimes at peace, other times at war. It's their history. It's there to look it up. And then white people showed up and they did, like so often we do, and other races do this as well. They ally themselves with some of the locals. And the white people allied themselves with one of these Hawaiian tribes and said, okay, now you are the king and you are the queen. And white people built them a castle. I shit you not. I'm probably wrong, but I still shit you not. And they actually clothed them in the same royal type of garments that we see on European monarchs, built them a European style castle. It's still there. That family is still the royal family of Hawaii. So white people allied with them and said, you're the king and queen now, took over the islands, and then built Western civilization, which wasn't there. These series of islands, this archipelago, built Western civilization, was not there. And now Western civilization is being white erased. The actual people that produce it, Western kind, but also then those structures that we built and those systems that we built, like the siren in Maui, that, yes, was intended for tsunamis, and that people have been trained to seek high ground during a tsunami when they hear the siren. But if they had turned the siren on, logic tells you that when people walk outside and they see fire and smoke billowing everywhere, they're going to conclude that this is actually not a tsunami. So maybe, yes, you don't turn it on right away because you don't know how wide the fire is going to be. But at the same time, at some point, the siren would have been turned on if incompetence hadn't been at the lever. That is the conversation you can have with people that can convince and then persuade. That's a great question. Thank you for that. There's the great Franklin. I never thought that the J Spurgs and Cortez would agree it's the jaywalkers. They are using their space lasers. Is that what she said? I mean, this is the dumbest thing. This is the dumbest thing. Could you imagine if you were the victimizer? Let's say you're in charge. Anthropomorphize it for a moment. You are in charge. You're the great victimizer. It would be great if you could get your victims to believe that you have space powers and space weapons. They would never resist you. Ever. Because then you'd be like, this is what witch doctors have always done. How are people falling for what was being employed by witch doctors in antediluvian times? The witch doctor said, if you don't give your pretty daughters or sons to me, whatever their liking was, if you don't give them to me, and you don't give me your sheep and oxen and riches and gold coins and everything, then this god or that god or demon or whatever will come and harm you. So you've got to give it up. So that's what is the appeal to? This overwhelming, all-knowing power. This is just the modern day overwhelming, all-knowing power argument. Don't resist, because we're all-knowing and all-powerful. All right. Papa Magic saying, enjoying an awesome thunderstorm. That's great, man. All right. Samuski said, I just got a little bit smarter. Thank you, Jason. Well, I appreciate you for saying that. Oh, the squirrels are the actual furry animal, anti-white, because they viciously and psychologically harmed for all time Rapunzel. Okay, what did a while ago Cortez ranted about jaywalker space lasers in Congress? Funny but sad in the same time. The reality, of course, is that if this all-powerful, why would this all-powerful government or invisible entities, why would they need to do something like this? They have the power of eminent domain. They can just do whatever they want. They could just take it all. Just take it all. Too bad. They could do that right now. Nothing you can do about it. What are you going to do? Right? They can't take that. That'd be all you'd be able to do. And they're getting to a point where they're going to be powerful enough to do that. They're getting to a point where anti-whites control so many nodes of power that they will be able to just say, okay, well, we decide to do this. And what are you going to do? You're going to appeal to another court that we also control? You're going to appeal to a court in another state that we control? I mean, this is why we have to win at the lathe, at the water cooler, at the dining room table. I'm just checking on the dashboard. Okay, we're good. Didn't miss anybody. They also look at, for example, and for those of you out there who are going to believe it's space lasers, galactic lasers that are shooting down and doing this and harm yourself psychologically by doing so, one of the arguments is these people are putting up these images of areas that are burnt and areas that aren't burnt, and they're saying, look at the precision. When in reality, it's look at the randomness. It's called pareidolia, where you see meaning where there is no meaning. It's clearly random. And then they're saying things when, and again, if it's wealthy people property that are been hydrated, even in a drought, because they're rich, it's not going to burn, or it's less likely to burn because it's nice and lush. And who knows, they may have even had, I can imagine really wealthy, certainly billionaires, having systems that spray water over their homes, for all I know. Why wouldn't that be something they could do? I would. If I were a billionaire, had all the money in the world, live in any place where there's even a remote chance. Watch, somebody who knows is going to write me and say, oh, there actually are systems like that, Jason. Watch. I've got we want over there on Odyssey. Terrible people show up here and there. We want firefighters, military, law enforcement. We want those people in our white positive community. So this idea is that you can't have anybody who is a professional in a professional job and any sort of power because then you're not legitimate. It's a self-defeating position. It's unbelievable that people tolerate that kind of garbage in the white sympathetic sphere. So for so many years, they tolerated it. It's like, what? Don't you know they got a cop in that's a member? And good. I mean, what are they doing? What are they up to? If they're putting it into the victimization of white people, that's good. No, they all need to be impecunious and powerless and live in relatives' basements that are willing to actually work for a living. And then you'll have a mighty rebellion. What was the other thing? Oh, they're talking about, look, clearly a laser hit here because right beside it is something that didn't burn. Seriously? Does the laser prevent the thing from burning? No, the claim is that the laser sets things on fire. But if you set everything on fire around a tree or a house, then why didn't those things burn? Because everything's on fire around them. That's called randomness. And that kind of thing happens in every fire, every disaster. Look at this tornado. What did they call it? The tri-state tornado years back. And the thing went around like a ping pong ball, hitting different towns and missing other areas. Was it being steered just to wipe those towns out? Or are you looking at a consequence and by way of randomness and by way of pareidolia, ascribing meaning where there is no meaning? And then they find like some umbrellas that didn't catch on fire. Maybe they were fire retardant. Maybe the fire didn't get close enough to them. It's 11:11. Rapunzel. Maybe that's what happened. But you're going to have a better argument for why things that had fire around them, like a tree here or a car there, didn't also burn. Because if everything around it's on fire, then it should be burning. So for some reason, they just had to preserve that palm tree or that palm tree. And at first, these people were all using images of lasers coming out of the sky that were all 100% fake. And also claiming that all the trees were left unharmed. Only the buildings were burnt. And of course, you can see trees scorched everywhere. Some not on fire, some on fire, called randomness. All right. We didn't miss anybody. Good. Very good. Well, we've had some fun, and we're going to celebrate right now, because right here, as we're getting toward the end, the great No White Guilt clips. I love this guy. I love him. He shows up. Please, raucous emojis. Talk about extolling one of our champions. 07s, 007s, make them quadruple 07s. Crowns, as you know, crowns, rain crowns down from those galactic lasers. Take crowns and laser them right down onto his head. No white guilt clips. Financially gifting 50 white well-being dollars. And saying everything he wanted to say. God bless you, brother. I'm looking forward to the day we get to clasp hands again. And I'm going to see if I can't find somebody else, and we'll pick you up and we'll walk you around on our shoulders. Thank you so much for your service to white well-being. Thank you so much. And thank you all, everybody who celebrates better than everybody who doesn't. Gentile gentleman, great to see you, brother, says you have firefighters, police, and paramedics as fans. I won't tell you how I know, wink, wink, but I have direct access. God bless you, man. Yeah, I've had people contact me who are all of those, and I told you all, I was making a plea to these guys who are wealthy compared to me, of course, but not like wealthy like Donald Trump or any of these kinds of people. And I was making a plea to them, and like God willed it himself that did I say the other time? Because I don't know if I want to give his rank away. High ranking in the Army. And he wrote, and it was him with the Go Free book. And it was this long message. I mean, it was like I had planned it. Like if I were going to fake it and plan it, that's how it happened for real. This guy, a genuine hero in service to white well-being, going free, high ranking in the military, and sends a picture of himself with the Go Free book, and then was lauding the success he's having and talking to fellow servicemen. So we have people, because we're normal folks. We are normal white Western country, white Americans, white Canadians, white Estonians. We're the normal people. We've had enough of being victimized. We're saying enough is enough. We are the normal folks who have said, hey, I'm going to be brave enough to say enough is enough for our victimization. I'm going to step up and say it. And hopefully more and more of our brothers and sisters out there who call themselves by various names like conservative or patriot, nationalist, they'll decide to get away from the cowardice, if that's what it is, where they won't talk about our victimization because they've learned it's immoral to do so, which kind of tells you a lot about the ideology dominating the West, right? Or those who are out there demonizing other groups of people and being white negative, they'll get away from that ugliness and come on over and do the right thing. Because we are those people. That's how those folks are able to participate. All right. Well, the last thing I'll take a quick look at. How long have we been? 3 hours? Okay. Well, I have the same issue at around the 3 hour mark. I'm like, really? It's been 3 hours when I'm horizontal. We have one more. Let's see. Just to mention. Is that it? No, that ain't it. No. Yeah. So in some of these polls I was looking at, Ramaswamy has passed DeSantis. That was one other thing that I was taking a look at. Excuse me. All right. This is just the other thing, very briefly. Anti-white argument that they're making. Tech glass ceiling. It's time to smash it for everyone. Really? Is there really a glass ceiling for non-white people and women? That's the argument by anti-whites. Much has been written about the fact that women are often left out of opportunities in the technology sector, and that's certainly true. No, it's not. Women are not prevented from participating in the technology sector. And more importantly, since we live in this laissez-faire, capitalist, selfish, individualistic world, if businesses could hire women for cheaper and those women would do same quality job or better, remember we all used to be browbeaten with that endlessly, they would fire all the guys and have all women. It's obvious. So women are not kept out. Women don't want to participate. And they have, as you have seen, we could look up, I'm not going to do it because we're running out of time, but all of these big tech companies have diversity goals for every quarter. And at the end of each quarter, they celebrate hitting those diversity goals. A diversity goal means what? Not more non-white people and women. It means fewer white males. So every time they set this goal, they say, we're going to reduce white males in this workforce by this amount or percentage. And then at the end of the quarter, they celebrate, we did it. We went even further. We got rid of even more white males than we had set out to get rid of. That's how you have to think about it. Same for every industry. This has been turning up this glass ceiling argument for the tech sector a little bit more and more. And it might be something that you'll end up hearing in family, at school, workplace, soccer field. The same could be said of Americans, but females aren't the only ones being kept out. Of course, that's illegal as well. The same could be said of Americans who have no college degree. So it's like if very often, I mean, you need some sort of background, and it doesn't have to be college. But this is what they're trying to imply, that you don't have to have training, that you don't have to have any training. College degrees are a dime a dozen now. Everybody has one, just about. So they're worthless. If you have a degree and you've gone out into the workforce, you've discovered how useless your degree is for 99% of degree. Well, maybe not that. Maybe 95% of degree holders. The remainder are very specialized degrees that it is valuable. But the vast majority are people who have degrees that ended up being valueless in their field because it's so easy to get, because the money is backed up by the government, and then you're on the hook for the rest of your life. So what they're saying here is, well, there's a problem with people not having any training. Like they have a degree in underwater basket weaving. They have a degree in some sort of like non-white studies. But then they can't get a job in the tech sector. No shit, because they have no training in the tech sector. The same could be said of Americans who have no college degree, who are neurodivergent or neurodiverse, meaning people that are genuinely handicapped to one degree or another, or people who could be even just faking it, who are over age 50, or who belong to other groups squeezed out of the tech workforce. You mean non-white groups, right? Yes, that's what they mean. Not all non-white groups, because the vast majority of the jobs that have been taken from white males, in my humble opinion, of course, have been given to Indians from India, who seemingly have an endless population. It could populate the entire Western world with India alone, and still have plenty of people in India. Wonderful people. Malodorous food, but wonderful people. And so they come over and they take these jobs. We heard for decades about white guys training their Indian replacements. Everybody has heard of that. So it's ubiquitous. So is that the problem? It's not Indians. but it is other non-white groups. Blacks, Hispanics, a little less Arabs. How many white people will be left in the tech sector? The same people. Now, you're not going to get, obviously, out of your average white person. Your average white person is going to give you what Oliver Anthony gave you in his interview with Fox. But how many white people in positions are going to stand up for us? If they haven't heard about Go Free, they're not. But how much more likely is it that we're going to be censored and silenced by anti-white, non-white people? How about anti-white people from India who now believe that their country sucked or whatever because white people came there and oppressed them, held them down? Now it's time to get some revenge. I'm going to make sure to tick that No White Guilt channel down even further. These people are getting jobs everywhere, every sector, every node of power, which increases the urgency and necessity that we empower white people with the Go Free lexicon. It's going to be the only way to push back. It is the only way to push back. While there are more than 1 million unfilled technology jobs in the U.S. today, the truth is that there are millions of Americans who can fill these vacancies if they can get training. So what did I say in that first paragraph? I hadn't even read the second paragraph. I said when they said the college degree thing, what they're talking about is no training. And then they just, of course, affirm it. These companies will have to shell out the dollars from your purchases for these tech devices and services to train the anti-whites, who will be almost entirely non-white anti-whites, to replace the remaining white males in the tech sector. So if you hear this, the glass ceiling in the tech industry, you heard it here first, and you know how to respond. All right. Good, we're good here. And didn't miss anybody there. I will check the YouTube live chat last, and maybe I'll read a couple of comments from you all from the thread, and then we will get out of here. All right. Hello again to anybody over there on Rumble. Keeping my eye on you. You know, Rumble, YouTube functions for us the way I mentioned the other day, just like the alternative media platforms, where they don't push. YouTube doesn't push us. It hides us. That's clear. But so does Rumble. So does DLive. So does Odyssey. They don't push us. They hide us. You got to go looking for us. So put your thinking caps on. How do we get around the censorship? No use in just complaining about it. We are men and women of the West. We find solutions. The engineers had 4-year degrees, but the women got more scholarships, and they made the same money as the men, says Elaine Sabatino. I know a Hispanic guy in the tech workforce, writes Owning Anti-White Goblins. He is definitely not discriminated against in the hiring process. Yeah. Yes. They're not discriminating against anybody but white males, with the occasional white female, but mostly white males. The only one it's moral to discriminate against and persecute, the only one that it's legal to discriminate against and persecute. Samuski, I work in the tech sector, and I'm a white man with high scores in my field. And I was hired. Amen, brother. Hold on tight, man. He says, just learn the Go Free lexicon and you can be a white man and land a good job. Amen to that. Thank you for that testimonial. Elaine had said before that I worked for, does that say materials, engineers, and computer programmers? Okay. And the women made more since they only had 2-year degree, Jason. They made the same as the men who had student loans. Well, yeah, exactly. Of course. Yeah, the guys have the massive student loans in order to get hired. You got to jump through hurdles. Let me tell you, I myself, I can tell you one of the angriest moments of my life was during a time that a relative was trying to get on to be a paid firefighter. And I went to court I had a dead inspection on my car. So I got a ticket, but they waived the ticket when I got the inspection. It wasn't an inspection. It was dead tags. Hadn't paid the taxes on it yet. So they just waived it when I paid. And I was sitting there with this black guy who was like 23 or something. He was in his early 20s, 24, 22. He was actually quite young. He was in his early 20s. He could have been 22, maybe even 21. And he was in the gear of a paid firefighter. And I asked first, I said, "You a firefighter? You paid?" And he said, "Oh, yeah." And I said, "How in the world?" Because I know a guy that has done all of the training for this and all of the training for that and all of the training for this. And he's everything under the sun and physically fit and everything you would need, but white. And he can't get hired. He's been at it for years. He can do everything in a fire. He can't get hired. How did you get hired? I'm like, how did this happen? And he said, they just came to my high school and said they were hiring for firefighters, and they just gave him the job. 20 years after getting that job, he'll be able to retire with full benefits, full pension. He'll be like 41, 42, 43, whatever it is. What will that do for his life? Did he deserve that job? He got that job because of his race. They literally came to, and by the way, the high school he went to is almost entirely non-white school. So they literally went to that high school to get somebody who wasn't white, to not just one, but to get people who were not white. What does that do for his life, and what effect did that have on the white guy's life as a consequence? And then there's a deeper question that is sort of more meta. What does that do for belief in the system? What does that do for participation? If there's no belief that hard work can get you what you deserve and what your talents warrant, then what does that do for the desire to participate? What does that do for the attitude toward social interaction, self-sacrifice for the society? What does it do? If your society promises you that no matter how hard you work, and this is what it does to white males, no matter how hard you work, no matter how much talent you have, your race can and will be used against you. And it will be given to somebody who didn't deserve it. What is your participation in that society likely to look like moving forward? Are you the kind of person now who cares about littering? Are you the kind of person now who cares about participating in the different aspects of society, contributing to society, charity to that society? Of course not. And when that happens on a mass scale, social bond breaks and everything collapses. So you have this effect, this injury now, and that translates into a future, like a narrative arc of life that goes into the future that could have been, that will not be. that holds true for the totality of that arc, both for the person who got something they didn't deserve and the person who got the shaft for something they did deserve. And then you have the consequence of the effect on the psyche. What are the children or friends of these two people? What are they going to learn from them? Well, in one case, it's you get something for nothing from society because you're owed it. Just because you were born, just because you're non-white, you are owed it. If you believe that you're just owed something, then do you really care for it? Do you really work hard at it? Do you really try to be your best? You're owed it. And then what about on the other side, where they're told that children and friends and relatives, where they're told, and they can even just see in many cases, these people who are watching, they don't need to be actually educated by the individual. They can just witness it. What about the people looking on at that, seeing somebody work their ass off for something they deserve and they get shafted because they're white? What do they feel about that society? What do they take away from that? What kind of anger do they develop? How does that affect their desire to even try? Now you wonder why so many white males are playing video games all day. Why so many are not participating. Because why bother? Yeah, maybe you'll be one of the white guys that's allowed to participate. Maybe it'll last for a decade or maybe your career. But there are so many others that are putting in the hours, the time, and accruing the debt and nothing. So the ramifications are massive. We have Gus over here on Cash App, financially gifting $5. Bless you, brother. Thank you so much, Gus. I really appreciate it. Over there on Cash App. Let me see on this thread. I want to just knock out a few of these because they're good. We have Doug Anderson. Says he could be disappointed in Oliver, but he's not disappointed in his song. Every word is true in the song, and he hopes it goes to the moon. But feel free to go after Oliver, he says. Thank you for that, brother. Freedom Advocate says, Jason, maybe it's for the best. You have actual communists praising Oliver's song. I suggest you look for more uplifting songs. Yes, that's what we're making here. Azimuth Clark, I heard a man can't serve two masters. You're either anti-white or you're not. You support white well-being or not. There's no fence riders here. We cannot remain neutral on a moving train. I don't care if you're playing your song on your resonator in a southern twang. I don't care if you look like someone who could be a member of my family. I've met plenty white anti-whites. You're either openly advocating for the well-being of our people or you're no friend of ours. Give me white well-being or give me death. Beautifully written. The Unbecoming says, anyone saying diversity is our greatest strength is not paying attention or are deliberately pushing a false narrative to further drive us into destruction. Hopefully this guy, Oliver, is the former and can be woken up to the real truth. Thank you. User CQ writes, he turned their money down to do it for free. Amen. Exactly. Amazing. Jubilation Media, Lovely Porge, writes here, the video has a far better and more important message than Anthony's song. The video has a far better and more important message than Anthony's song, but it won't do as well as the generic Black Guy Reacts to song video. So Jubilation is talking about my video, about yesterday's video about Oliver Anthony. So he says that video has a far better and more important message than Anthony's song, but it won't do as well as the generic Black Guy Reacts to song videos, because the only thing that really matters to a cuckservative is how black people feel. Get on your knees, Anthony, and open wide. Your wife's boyfriend has a bigger truck and more gum boots. Congratulations. So true. Dumpster Diver says here, spot on, Jason. What a complete bed-shitting letdown this entire charade has been. Like the incredible high from an addictive drug. Oliver's brief entrance into our lives has now left with an equally opposite and horrific drug-like come down. Sometimes the entire dadgum thing seems like a terrible teasing simulation. Really does, man. Back to Porge. He says, Oliver says his music isn't right or left, white or black, rich or poor. Yes, it is. It's typical white conservative boomer. And I think he intended that with caveats about tax, fat people on welfare, and the Epstein thing. To me, the message was libertarian. The rich men want control, so we need to get the government off our backs. It's a muddled message because conservatism is an incoherent fantasy ideology by design. But I don't think he cucked. I think he genuinely never had any understanding of anti-whiteism or any desire to oppose it. And he adds this, hello, I'd like to buy some music. Of course. What type of music are you interested in? I was wondering if you had anything for humans. Well, this new track just came in by Oliver Anthony. You're going to love it. It's written just for humans. The Great Reptile says here, just my opinion, I hate this song. Our people need art that inspires strength and uplifts us from white noir. This is just commiserating over our defeat. I lived in that hell for years, all capital letters for years. It's a filthy tar pit that consumes all who enter. And Richmond, north of Richmond, will be the soundtrack on your way down. So very true. He goes on to say that we need true voices of the West that are inspiring us in music. Of course, that's like the great Fournol. Slots is here. Great to see you, champ. We got somebody who has come in here and has no idea who we are and what we think. And it always looks so dumb, doesn't it? When they come in and they're just totally immersed in the anti-white narrative. And they're like, anybody who cares about white people being victimized, just ipso facto are these things. And so I'm going to say X, Y, Z. And it's like having a retarded child burst into a room and start telling you about their fantasies as though they're real. And you're just like, oh, yeah, he's a child and he's retarded. Peter's son is here. Red Dog, great to see you. Porton Jeterson is here. He says, gave your info to influencer with huge platform. He'd taken to focusing on other groups. Got DM and thanked me. I said, how whites can protect themselves without ruining their lives in the process. God bless you, man. Thank you for that. That's the kind of activism we need desperately. We have Bulldog Boris says the cheering on when the whites are being beaten, and this is, of course, down in Montgomery, Alabama, is what really makes my stomach turn. And the fact that there are so many cheering. Rapunzel said she's falling asleep, so we need to do something to wake her up. What can I do to wake her up? Ideas? Anybody, Bulldog Boris says, anybody who cheers while seeing people beaten are sick, twisted, and evil individuals. We have seen We have been demonized for decades by anti-white propaganda to the extent that people see it as a moral thing to do, acts of violence against us. When a group of people constantly are being demonized and dehumanized, and they make it a moral thing to hate that group, then they will also see it as a moral thing to get rid of us. This is what they would do to a people they are trying to get rid of. Yeah, 100%, brother. Matt Murray says, I was contacted by 2 anti-whites from Greenpeace outside the supermarket. The guy said to me, hey, you look angry today. Can I talk to you? I replied, I don't want to listen to your anti-white bullshit. Good for you, Matt. The guy almost went limp and couldn't speak. That's the power of the Go Free method. He just looked at me in shock. As I exited the store, I noticed the girl from Greenpeace running up to me. I could hear her sounding very positive and happy and saying out loud, I want to talk to all the guys with big biceps. Oh, God. As she had taken notice of my Westman physique, that's funny, she knew I saw them as immoral and they couldn't guilt me. Yeah, she did, man. You're right. So she had to approach me with a big submissive smile. If I had said that I don't talk to communists, they would have been aggressive toward me. I would have looked like an immoral loser. Take the moral high ground with the Go Free method. Awesome, Matt. Thank you for that. I've got to read this. I'm not going to do it tonight, but let's see. Thorberson has a couple of great posts that all go together, comments that I want to read. He's a white man that married into a black family. And so he has black family members. They're all black. He's the only white one. And he has quite an insider take on anti-white black people. And it's really worth reading. We don't have quite enough time tonight, but I'm going to get to that. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate you stepping up and sharing your experience. We have, oh my goodness, Irish Nick. You saw the shamrock, didn't you? Did it start swelling in the background? Irish Nick, let's get some crowns for his head. Man, the galactic laser beams. Mwah, mwah. What's the sound for what's the alarm for that? Boop. No, that's like the sonar on a submarine. Boop. Boop. This is like, man, the galactic laser beams. And you're gonna load them up with crowns down on planet Earth, landing right on our brother Irish Nick's head. God bless you, brother. Let's get him some raucous emojis for real. 07s and 007s, 95s for the man who shows up with a shamrock and a $50 bill wrapped around it. God bless you, man. He says 07 to you and this community with the absolute necessary shamrock. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm going to have to tell you all that you are inspiring me and someone else who's going off onto a mission in the near future. We won't say exactly, but we are on to a mission. It was an impromptu thing, and we are off to a mission. So thank you so very much. I really appreciate that. And that's a big testimonial. Every time there is a financial gift at the work we're doing here, there are turd sticks, is that what it is, in uniform that can't execute a proper salute. I salute you, your proper salute, says Winged Productions. Amen, brother. I can't bring it up right for the arm on the chair, but you know what I mean. Nice and sharp. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. The proper salute. Johnny Johnson's with us. Promethean healing hasn't moved. He hasn't budged. Do you remember the days when I would stream for, you were here, 8, 10 hours long, and then there were a couple that were 12. That was the limit, used to be. I don't know what the limit is now. And there were times where people would start with us at the beginning of the stream, go to sleep for work the next day, and wake up for work the next day, sit down to eat breakfast, and they would type, "Holy shit, you're still on? You're still streaming?" Yeah, we remember those days. Trying to, we knew that we were getting into 2016, that big iron curtain of censorship descended, and we were trying to make the most of the very little time we had left. So that's why I was on so much. But now you can see what it amounts to. Now you can see these people with these numbers. Unbelievable. The deep and unabiding sense. People start at the exact same time. They release the video at the exact same time, have fewer subs, and have many, many, many times the number of views. So that's the world we're in, regrettably. God bless you, man. Irish. Of course. We know this, that Irish Nick is a genuine leprechaun. See, what you didn't know, like in all the commercials, and then you got the silly cereal, and it's like a little guy. It's like some like little midget guy. And he's like, "Oh, I'm a leprechaun." Isn't that how he talks? You didn't know the reality. The reality is leprechauns are like rippling muscle, and flesh is like steel. They wield gigantic, in both hands they got a mace, and they just clean out of love, mace of love, and they just swipe people right over the head, and they swoon and fall in love with Western kind. That's what it is. Why don't we just get out there and aggressively push for an old song, and in the process put the No White Guilt website address at the bottom of our post? Yes. I mean, I immediately purchased ad time over on Gab. Not the best place. I would like to do it on Twitter, since Lunder told me about how to do it. And then we find out that Twitter is not going to give me that power. And I've sent now 4 messages, and they just wrote back again saying it was one of these things like, here's some more red tape you can deal with. So I don't know if Twitter will ever give me the power to promote on Twitter. And this is supposed to be the free speech. Total horseshit. But yeah, we can absolutely do that. That's what I was hoping. And we actually got his song in front of many, many, many scores of thousands to at least see the name and everything. And then it was, I forget the exact number that went and listened to the song, but I think he has over 2,000 views, maybe. I was that white guy who was despondent about my future, writes Samuski, but I was fortunate to have a white positive friend I went to school with, and I have to credit him with helping me land this job. Man, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. That is fantastic. So glad that you have a good job, man. Stay positive, build that base, climb the ranks when you can. Franklin saying wouldn't consider repeatedly posting the No White Guilt URL on Twitter to be spam, though. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Samuski says squirrel attack. Yep, that would wake her up. That's what we should do. We should just sort of said, "There's squirrels outside the window." 3 of them, but more are coming. Sloth says, yes, I saw those. You talking about the advertisement that I put up for Fernald? You know what I should have done? I got a little worried that Fernald might not be terribly happy with the decision. I just should have gone ahead and done it. And then if he had been unhappy, just pull it down. But the idea that I got while I was making the ad was to throw a really good looking woman, maybe like in a cowboy hat and some Daisy Dukes, like on the side of the ad. That would have definitely gotten attention. And Fernald probably wouldn't have cared. Are you going to try playing Westman the game on stream, or will you get motion sick? Oh, that's a good question. Does it do 3D animation? Because the trailers of these games I can watch, but the game itself, if it does any 3D animation, you'll see me start like drooling at the corner of my mouth, and I'll just like tip over, and that'll be it for a while, for like several hours, as I sleep it off. Sloth says, I saw those ads, but I was talking about the 10-hour stream. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you were there back in the day. And he saw when they would wake up and exclaim. That's so true. It was hilarious. How the hell are you still going? Your daughter said the same thing. I'm kidding. Jeterson, agree completely that Spurging is a mistake. What won't do it? But what's a good MC for when someone keeps appealing to the terrible mustache man event that no one is allowed to dispute? Oh, it's great. Thanks for the question. Whenever I'm confronted with people who want to throw this event, I don't know if I'm thinking about whether or not I should say the word, because the algorithm silences us, but it will come right around as soon as it hears certain words. But when that event is adduced in conversation, what I'll say is, well, you can thank me. You can thank the whole of the white race for saving you. And now I'm going to talk about the present and putting an end to the victimization of white people. I don't know. Are you actually implying that all white people, all these years later, are guilty of that? Because that would make you really anti-white. Every time I've done this, it destroys them. It totally destroys them. You're either going to have, and it's very rare, where you'll have an anti-white. These are really like the purple-haired, unhinged, drug-abusing, heroin den type. That'll be like, yes, all white people. And then you're done with the conversation. You don't want to have a conversation with somebody like that. Do you really want to talk to somebody who believes that all white people should be victimized for any reason, for all time? I mean, that's a psychotic person, right? That happens rarely, very rarely. The majority of the time is that an anti-white will continue, like an actual anti-white, will continue to try to make the linkage. And then I make the linkage that to make that linkage proves that you're anti-white. You're trying to come up with an excuse to victimize me and my people and white babies today. But let me tell you, the moment you tell them that if you want to talk about that event, then you can thank me and the white race for saving you. And you could say that even in that country, because you can claim inheritance to to the people who came and liberated these places, but certainly every country outside of it. And they don't like that. They really don't like it. I've had these conversations with people. We really need to get out of here. Oh my God, yeah. I've had these conversations with people where they say in the white sympathetic sphere that you have to debunk this event because you can't move beyond it. It's impossible. And what I hear them saying is they can't move beyond it. They don't know how. That's not an objective fact. That's a subjective reality for them, because I move past it every time it's brought up with ease. And so you could choose to go the impossible route, which is to change the minds of all human beings about this event, which won't happen. Or you can tell the person trying to bring it up that they can thank, if they want to talk about it at all, that you're not the kind of person that looks in the rearview mirror. You're talking about right now, the victimization of our people, and you want to put an end to it. But if they do want to talk about that they can begin thanking you. And you really see it unfold in a way that's beneficial to you. And it's true. It's true. They can thank. I started doing that actually with the war for Southern independence and slavery in junior high school. So I shouted at teachers. I was just like, you can thank me. You can thank the whole white race. And they did not like that. They had no response. Their response was, you're going to go to the principal's office. All right, bitch. All right, bitch, but you just got owned. When do we start like the weeks-long celebration of white people for killing 600 some odd thousand of us to free these black people? Let's start that several weeks long celebration. They were like, hell no. They were blaming, and of course you see this. They were blaming white people, the children who had just come to the country. And I have a specific case in my book, Crucible, because it's not about reality. It's about a narrative. And you just really have to address it as such, and then you can beat it. Oh, well, we got 1 minute. Oh, Irish Nick pointing out that's that's true. That's true. Wing of Production says outstanding retort. Yes, thank you. If I had known how to properly respond to people bringing up that historical event in my life, says Victorian time traveler, it would have been very different. I would have been very different today than it is. Thanks again for leading me away from that path. You are most welcome, brother. And now you know how to hammer it home when they bring it up. Let them have it. Oh, Sloth said the Westman game is 2D. Okay, so the whole thing is 2D. Then I shouldn't get sick. After midnight, we gonna let it all hang out. Irish Nick was right. Great info, says Jeterson. Thank you. I will write that down. Good for the appendix in the next edition of Go Free. Yeah, it might already be in my notes to add. But yeah, it is absolutely something that should be in there. They don't like it. And then with vagues out there, which remember, we call what everybody else will call a normie, so not good. We call them vagues, or a lemming, call them vagues. When they bring it up, it's going to be like this really flaccid objection to something that you're saying about ending the victimization of white people. And the moment you connect, are you suggesting that white people need to be victimized because we saved this other group of people, they immediately drop it. They're like, holy shit, no, I didn't say that. I had one woman one time, and it was great because she said, I mean, she was like full of conviction. I guess this is a good way to end our roll-in today. She was like full of conviction. And but she was just a vague. She wasn't like a hardcore anti-white. She was just a white female that was a vague, and she had learned, and white race is so evil because of this. And she said, she's like, and this. And so I did my retort that I've been sharing several times here. And she lowered her head. She was like looking into the abyss, and her eyes were going back and forth as she was slowly computing, like, I have been justifying the victimization of white people because of this for my whole life. How did this happen? How was I tricked? And I just walked away, left her just like that, staring into the void, like aiming at the ground, eyes, that 1,000-mile stare, and that searching like a fog light from the lighthouse out over the ocean, just looking for, how did this happen to me? Anti-whiteism, honey. And now you have found the remedy. Let's go free. Roll out.
Some folks call me a rambling man. I do a lot of thumbing and kicking cans, and it wouldn't do an ounce of good to call my name. But daddy's name wasn't Willie Woodrow, and I wasn't born and raised in no ghetto, just a white man looking for a place to do my thing. Well, I'm out to find me a wealthy woman in a line of work that won't take no diploma, and I ain't got much to lose and a lot to gain. Some call me a good time fella. I ain't black and I ain't yellow. I'm a white man looking for a place to do my thing. I don't want no handout living, don't want any part of anything they're getting, 'cause I'm proud and white and I got a song to sing. Well, I said if